Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was yesterday impeached after following a two-day exercise that entailed volumes of evidence and hours of cross-examination. Gachagua, who is presently admitted at the Karen Hospital, was ousted after senators voted in favor of 5 out of the 11 grounds presented as grounds for his removal. 54 senators voted in support of the first count of gross violation of Articles 10, 27, 73, 75, 129 of the Constitution, while only 13 senators voted against it.
Ground number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Now, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Article 145(7) and 151(b) and 2 of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(8) of the Senate has resolved to remove from office by impeachment His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, AGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Accordingly, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, AGH, ceases to hold office.
The senators voted after fierce debate in Parliament, with some senators claiming that it wasn't fair for the sessions to continue when Gachagua was not there to defend himself. Some senators from Mount Kenya region, led by Senator John Methu, warned of dire consequences in the relationship between the president and the Mount Kenya region, insisting that the decision of the Senate will have serious consequences politically.
There's no rule that says that you can be condemned unhand. So when the Senate decided to take that approach, we decided to take leave, because we'll be sitting in an act, or rather we shall be perpetuating an illegality if we were to sit in Parliament without adequate instructions from our client.
He is currently suffering intense chest pains. I did not want to inquire beyond that, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Since the beginning of the process, Gachagua vowed to fight to the end, insisting that he is innocent. Gachagua, however, has the opportunity to file an appeal in court against the decision. Now, the health condition of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is stable. Gachagua, who was admitted to Karen Hospital yesterday after attending the morning sessions, is said to be recovering well. According to his doctor, Gachagua is alleged to have complained of chest pains at around 3 p.m. yesterday when he was rushed to the hospital and underwent a checkup. In a meeting with journalists, the cardiologist at the hospital, Dan Gikonyo, said that Gachagua took various tests. According to Gikonyo, the pain he was complaining about has gone down.
I can say he's quite stable. He's on. There are the routines that we do. Every doctor knows the type of things we do when somebody is suspected of some heart trouble. There are some standards of blood tests, ECGs, echoes that we do, and some standard medications of aspirin and cholesterol medicine that we give as we observe. If you come with chest pain in any hospital in this country or in the world, you will be held captive for at least 24-72 hours to rule out serious issues. I'm sure you guys read a lot. Stress can cause heart problems, we know that, and the DP is definitely a lot of stress. I'm sure you've heard about something called Takotsubo syndrome, the broken heart syndrome, all those things that can cause severe heart problems. So all those are possibilities.
Gachagua fell ill just before taking to the Sun to defend himself at the Senate. Initially, his lawyers informed the Senate about the incident, which forced Speaker Amason Kingi to adjourn the hearings till 5 p.m., then continue when the senators finally impeached him while he was admitted in hospital.
If I get you correctly, Senior Counsel Paul Mwite, it is your application to the Senate that your client be given a couple of days.
I would add the word humbly requests Mheshimiwa Speaker and this Honorable House, the Senate, a couple of days ahead in mind up to Tuesday. We should be able to know when the Deputy President is able to come and defend himself.
The Senate, however, ruled against that and opted to continue with the hearings. Now, it is highly anticipated that President William Ruto might be presenting the name of his new deputy president to the National Assembly today, following the removal from office of Rigathi Gachagua. Senate Speaker Amason Kingi already gazetted the historic decision of the Senate to remove Gachagua from the position. In addition, the National Assembly also convened a special session today to discuss various issues, the time that and Majority Whip Silvanus Osoro said will be used to make up for the time spent gathering opinions of Kenyans, that is public participation on the motion to impeach Gachagua from office. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asada. Good morning.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No. Since I'm not shipping up. You're my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a stuff.
And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you.
That really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The Thika Superhighway is clear right now all the way, including when you get to Keno. The Keno-Maroa Road is very, very clear. That means that from Nairobi to Karatina is okay. From Karatina to that village in Madeira is clear. So no road, nothing on the road. Anybody willing to leave Nairobi now to go to Madeira? Feel free. You can go there.
Yeah,
especially if you're going there for retirement. It's clear.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning. How are you doing? Mambo iko vipi? Welcome to Friday. It's the 18th day of October 2024. Hopefully now it's going to be over. It's just, this is it. We get back into regular programming. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unless they give us new, fresh drama. These people, you're never sure with them.
Just when you think you figured it out.
Just when you think you figured it out, they come up with something else to keep you occupied for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. This one has been occupying, though.
Yeah.
And it isn't quite over, is it?
Bad though. But I hope it is. Surely. Can we just move on now?
But it has engaged Kenyans, and it has proved that Kenyans like being engaged by such things. Kabza?
Wakenya wapatie tu
wanapenda mzozo nini loud noise. Very good.
Kadrama kidogo tu. Si wingi kidogo kama kafirifiri. Kwa bali. Kidogo. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Yes.
Safi sana.
You know, some of these things, the tragedy to it. You look at this whole drama and then you look at the person involved. I personally cannot help but feel sad.
Yeah.
Why
are you sad?
It's the tragedy of it all. This is somebody who had looked at life and he saw himself at the pinnacle of it, and things were just beginning. No, they had not ended; they were just beginning, and he was just getting into the flow. And then it comes to an end. Wow, man!
Like that too.
Punde si punde, literally. Nah, it's tragic. It's tragic.
Hey, hivyo tu
bwana. Yani hata hujapata nafasi ya kupumua vizuri bwana.
Ai. Kenya.
Man, deep breath. You're exhaling out. Second deep breath hakuna. No, but it heralds a new era. These things are often far more monumental than is realized at the time it happens. It's like the repealing of Section 2A. Who knew that repealing of Section 2A would take us to where we are today, now, here?
Yeah.
And that we would be understanding democracy the way we understand it. That we'd be looking at details of things that previously were thought not possible or extremely difficult. And now, here we are witnessing it. So, something of this sort, something as momentous as this, what it brings forth, what it sets in motion, we can only think we understand. We don't fully understand it.
Hatuyajui.
No, bado. But kile tunachoelewa ni kidogo kabisa. Yes.
Tutasikia vile tuliambiwa na Mackenzie. Mnachokitafuta kitawaramba.
Alisema vizuri sana, sio?
Hamjui mnachokitafuta nyie.
Na ikiwafikia
kitawaramba.
Hiyo ndio hakika.
So, let me tell you, now that the Senate did the Senate thing, and this story is over from the Senate, as we stand right now, as the Constitution says, the Deputy President shall cease to hold office. So, it was done, it was gazetted. Speaker Kingi's Gazette notice came out at midnight. It's been gazetted that the Senate has resolved to remove the Deputy President from office by impeachment. Okay? So Rigathi Gachagua is no longer our Deputy President. Kenya does not have a Deputy President this morning. Are we together?
We are very much together.
Very good. Now, what does our Constitution say about all these issues?
Yes.
So this morning we've invited two people. One person was in Parliament around 2010, and from 2008, of course, to 2013, he was a member of Parliament for Mandera North, and in that Parliament, he was the chair first of a committee, a special select committee that was set up by Parliament to oversee the coming to being of the new constitution. That time it was called the Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitution Review. That select committee is the one that vetted and confirmed the appointment of a team that was called the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review that had experts and had a secretariat. The secretariat was headed by Dr. Ekuru Aukot. Okay? The man who was the chair of that select committee, after the promulgation of the Constitution, they then Parliament formed a committee called the Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee. Basically to oversight now the implementation of this Constitution. The commission, the Charles Nyachai Commission was established, and they were working on laws and were working closely with this committee in Parliament. The chair of that committee is Senior Counsel Abdikadir Mohammed. Was Senior Counsel Abdikadir Mohammed. So he knows the Constitution and what it says. He was very much involved. He was a convener, for example, or, well, not a convener, but he was very much active in the Naivasha talks and all those things and what was happening in the draft Constitution. Dr. Ekuru Okoh was the CEO of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. They're the ones who now gave us the draft Constitution. It was called the Harmonized Draft Constitution that went ahead to become the draft Constitution that we voted for in 2010. Those two gentlemen are joining us at 7 a.m. to talk about the constitutionality of all these things. What does the Katiba say? So now that Rigathi ceases to hold office, what does that mean? All right. So it says also 14 days, president nominate, and then 60 days, parliament votes. What does that all mean? Can the president nominate today? Do we need IEBC? Do we not? Does Rigathi now start getting 80% of the salary that he was receiving last month? So does it start operating at 80% from the 18th, or is he going to get a full salary this month? You know, all those things.
And if he's going to get a salary, is he eligible for a pension?
Yeah.
And if it's a pension, how long will that pension last?
Yes. Right? All those questions are important. Now that he's in hospital and is no longer DP, who's paying the bill?
Because he was in hospital. It was like when he was DP.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's going to pay the bill? For all those questions, Bwana. So we want to understand basically everything that surrounds it, just the side that the Constitution says about these matters. And then at 9 a.m. we will have our health conversation. Our Health Friday conversation today is going to be about the ear, nose and throat, ENT. You need to think about your ears to avoid hearing loss. You need to think about your throat to avoid voice loss and all these other conditions that come.
From the throat loss.
Throat loss. Think about your nose to avoid what? Breathing loss. Yeah? Yeah, maybe loss of smell, maybe.
Kabisa, inawezekana.
Yeah. And we'll be joined by a doctor who's a specialist on these matters. He's Dr. Wahome Karanja. He's a consultant ENT specialist. Joins us at Sangapi, saa 3. So 7 and 8, mambo ya katiba ya DP. Saa 3, Health Friday. Tufunge wiki namna hiyo. 18 minutes after 6. Okay, let's tell you about the weather and then we'll look at the headlines.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Okay, not so bad in Nairobi and its environs. So right now it's at 15 degrees and warming up, and Kakamega is mostly cloudy at 17. It is cloudy at 12 in Eldoret. It's 14 in Nakuru. It's 14 in Nyeri. It is 25 and partly sunny already in Malindi. It's cloudy in Kisumu at 20. In Kampala, it's cloudy at 18. It's cloudy in Johannesburg at 14. In Kinshasa, cloudy at 26. In Lagos, clear skies at 24. It's partly sunny in Mogadishu at 26. It's cloudy in Addis Ababa at 11. It's cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 24. Paris cloudy at 13. Beijing cloudy at 17. Cloudy in London at 11. And clear skies in New York, but at 9 degrees.
Talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Wameguza mlima na wametigisha mlima. Wamekosea sana. Brian Omari says, mlima imeguswa. Alvin Odhiambo Obambo, good morning Spice. Laban Misiani, Anguka Nayo, Benson Ogogo, waiting to hear how Taifa Leo title today. Sounds like, yeah. Dedi Sulaka, good morning from Kisumu. Kenyan American analyst, the drama in Kenya makes Hollywood look like Amateur's Arena. Yeah, I wish we could just convert all these things into some nice TV series and movies, right? Patriotic, who agrees since Mount Kenya's people are the worst that they should be allowed to create their small republic like Rwanda? Surely. Wewe bwana. Miss Beauty makeup. Gladys Wanjiri, tuendelee sasa. Can NHIF come back please? King Dave Lubale, Imagine Adani issue, Shakahola issue, She for Sha issues, corruption issues could go the way it went last 2 weeks. Yeah, imagine. If all those things, if the effort that we have seen in the last 2 weeks was actually being put on these other issues, this country would be far. Now Rigiji is gone, the cost of living should be solved from this morning. Lucky Okoh, Moses Omingo, Mwalimu Bosco, Eric Owor, Jeremy Khan, and Dangote Kilonzo, Tibbs Muga, Elkanah Rotich, Fikaina Mining, Bro Samon Dieki, Karibuni Sana, good morning everybody, Eric Owor, Samson Mwangi, Cecilia Ongweni, Agola, Ongala Malala, George Okoth, Yaslin Mohammed, Alfred Karaoke, bonjour from Abidjan. Regardless, life moves on. Right, life moves on regardless.
Regardless.
Yes.
Right.
That was a merciless dismissal. Even Moi was not that harsh to recall your detail while in hospital. Aye. Hey. Yani ilifika midnight like this. Zoop. Maburi Badrika. Everybody, karibuni sana. Evans Tabo and Raphael Kiege and Raphael Festus Hongo and David Kitui. We appreciate and acknowledge all of you. Welcome to the show. City.
Our final proverb for the day from the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria.
Algeria.
Yes, the absent always has a justification.
The absent
always
has
a
justification.
Yes.
Unajua ilikuwa jam.
Wewe bwana hujaelewa vizuri. Hii kitu sio vile unavyoona.
Si hivyo directive.
Unajua? Kwanza silinyesha kwenu? Bana, si ndio kwa sababu? If you say haikunyesha, pia bado itakuwa si ndio sababu.
See? You see? That's what I mean.
What did you think I meant?
Okay. Let's look at the headlines. Mr. Avin will get us the Daily Nation if it has arrived. Imefika hapa kwetu by this morning. But then, I've got the Standard. You tell us the Standard. I'll tell you what's on the People Daily and the Taifa Leo.
Right. My friend. Standard. My friend, there's nothing else. Adani to use JKI title to secure loans.
Atike.
The stories on page 10. Well, they're petitioners who've gone to court. This Adani thing isn't actually yep, and that's what they're saying. Gashoka and Mount Kenya juries have filed a case against the controversial airport deal. The petitioners say Kenyans will bear the financial burden if the plan goes through. Okay?
That's what they're saying.
Yes, this is filed by activist Tony Gashoka and the Mount Kenya juries at the High Court. That's what they're saying. All right? Hii kitu, title yetu, ndio tumika kusecure loan. All right? Yep. Perhaps a little understanding on how project financing works is needed here. It doesn't quite work like that. Not quite like that. Anyway, this one...
What shall they use as collateral?
Collateral, usually, it's what it is that you generate. Because if there's money that you want an assurance for, it's not the building, it's not the land, but it's what that particular entity generates. That is what...
So when you're going to secure financing to develop this PPP, right, what are you using as collateral?
As I said, an expert on project financing needs to come and explain this, but I am certain that you are not going to take, like someone telling you they're going to take the title of the Kenya Ports Authority to Exim Bank of whichever place, and that is what's going to secure the loan. No. Project financing, let me repeat again, doesn't quite work like that.
Okay.
Not quite like that. Okay. And if it's a government project, a government guarantee is what is often given, not a government title deed.
Very good.
Yes.
It's a guarantee.
It's a guarantee that is given.
It's a guarantee.
And the guarantee is supported by whatever it is that you generate.
Okay.
See, letter title. See title. There's no bang in the middle of the paper here because the whole paper is bang in the middle. Okay? The entire page. Fired after 766 days. That is what is on not the paper. It's on the whole paper except these small little corners that I mentioned here.
Okay.
Yes. Almost a 16th of the paper is where all set for KCSE KEPSA exams as schools close. That one.
Okay.
Adani to use JKI title to secure loan. That one.
Okay.
Then there's an advert for Pulse in the middle of the paper. But the rest of the paper, 66 days fired. There's a picture of Paul Mwite, what he said. Senators upheld 5 counts out of 11. That saw the deputy the president pack his bags. That's in summary. That's it. On a day of high drama, God Almighty, and fireworks, the Senate handed Deputy President Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, sworn into office on September 13, 2022, alongside President William Ruto, a mortal blow by voting to send him home despite his lawyers reporting that he had fallen ill and pleading for more time to enable him a round of his defense. And now he enters the history books as the first DP to be ignominiously bundled out of the office after fallout with his boss. The story is on page 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Well, what?
My goodness.
Okay.
So.
The Daily Nation, Adani deal will cut power bills. That's what expert Opio and I says. You know, now we call these ones experts. Right? Opio and I is the cabinet secretary for what? Energy. And he says Kenya is betting on reducing mounting system losses on the high voltage power transmission lines that are to be built by India's Adani Group. Energy cabinet secretary Opio and I yesterday said Kenya is counting on public-private partnerships to finance the construction of highways, power lines and other infrastructure following the ballooning of the country's public debts. Okay? Yeah. Other headline, teachers dig in over pay for marking tests. So the KCSE and KPSEA exams are about to begin, and this is the windfall season for who? For teachers who mark the exams. And they're saying, hapana, hii time, mtupatie pesa tu hivyo kidogo kidogo. Muongeze hii pesa. Hatutaki ati pesa kidogo kidogo. Muongeze pesa. The headline in the Nation today, they've got a big photo of Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, the former deputy president of Kenya, seated in the Senate, and he was on a call. And then they've written, end of the road, fired. That's the headline, fired. Impeached. Mr. Rigathi Gachagua's short stint as deputy president ended last night after he was impeached by the Senate, which found him guilty of 5 out of the 11 charges he was facing. Gachagua fell ill in the afternoon minutes before taking the stand for cross-examination, leading to delays, a walkout, and a decision late into the night in a day characterized by high-stakes lobbying and political machinations. They have put that story on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? Yeah. All those pages.
It's that important, isn't it?
All those pages, my friend, are talking about that. The People Daily has an interesting headline. Theirs. How do you pronounce this city? E-R-A.
Who?
E-R-A.
E-R-A.
Pronounce.
Error.
Okay. E-R-R-O-R.
Error. Error.
You
don't go the
okay.
you go r. Oh.
Okay.
Error.
End of an arrow.
End of an error.
End of an error. That's what they've written in the
End
People
of a
Daily.
mistake.
In the People Daily. That's what they say.
They're saying it's end of a mistake.
Yes. Impeachment after protracted hearings and game of wits by top lawyers in the Senate. Preachy members fire Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for gross misconduct, violation of the Constitution, and his oath of office. Wamemalizana hiyo story hapo. There's no other headline in the People Daily. That is the headline in the People Daily. That's it. No other headline. Okay? You have the Business Daily?
I do have the Business Daily.
Okay.
And it looks like that picture with the immediate former deputy president on the phone is also there. It's taken a major part of the paper. But the other half is something else. Let me just read what is in it, a summary of what's in the paper. Kenya eyes 113 billion mega IMF loan disbursement. Okay? Here we go with the loans. CAK to review Coke operation. Coke here being Coca-Cola, please.
Okay.
All right? KCB, EIB in 32 billion deal for SMEs. Okay? That is the European Investment Bank, that's what it's called. And KCB Bank Kenya have announced a 32.3 billion deal to support SMEs, youth and women in Kenya. Okay? Right. Then, bang in the middle of the paper, there's a picture that I mentioned to you, and they say Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua during a session of his impeachment trial in the Senate yesterday. That's one, okay? There's, this forlorn look that the gentleman has. Then J.P. Morgan snubs Kenya billionaires in Africa plan.
This is Kenya.
J.P. Morgan snubs. Kenya snubs. Mwambia Kenya billionaires, take the snub. Yep. Wealth management arm to focus on South Africa and Nigeria. Analysts attribute move to Kenya's small share of billionaires. Sikia?
Okay.
Hatuna billionaires wengi kama South Africa kwa ufupi.
Okay. Haya. Let me tell you what's in the Nairobian, and then we'll look at the Taifa Leo. Sawa?
Hiyo ni sawa kabisa.
The Nairobian. Banned Muthaiga Club. This is why Lawyer Kip Korir is not welcome. Look at that drama. Lawyer Kip Korir and the Muthaiga Club. Queen, how soon will the women's world record fall again? We're looking at Chepngetich, who broke the marathon record in Chicago over the weekend. Burial rites. Why those who live away will not walk through the main gate dead. There's a story there about some communities where if you die and you're not at home, you're unaletwa nyumbani, haupitishwi kwa main gate. Unapitishwa kwa fence. Kwa nini?
There was an issue. Okay, let me explain. I know, for instance, the community that I come from, there were reasons why you don't go through the main gate. For instance, if you're a lady who was not married, all right, they gave reasons. Or there was an issue with ndoa yako. There were a raft of reasons why it is. And the logic behind it was not complicated. It was believed that it would bring bad omen.
Okay.
You too. Now that bad omen, you decide how it is you're going to interpret it.
Wow. Okay. Condom dilemma. Gen Z boldly redefine casual sex and safe contraception. They have a story on page 14 and 15 in the Nairobian around that. And then Sex in the City. Diddy-style freak-off parties take over Nairobi nightlife with a buzz. Hey?
That's the Business Daily.
The Nairobian.
Oh, sorry.
There's a business of the nightlife, but
I was wondering, how come I didn't see those stories? Yeah. Right.
In recent weeks, the world has been shocked by numerous allegations linking American rap mogul Sean P. Diddy Combs to his infamous freak-off parties. Meanwhile, many closer to home are observing with indifference, having attended similar gatherings themselves, events that are gaining popularity in city estates. This is a full-page story. These parties need no evidence. What you record in memory remains for you to remember. Taking photographic footage is largely treated as an abomination, unless, of course, it's the boss doing it. So, yeah, they happen. There are masquerade parties. There are swingers clubs in Kenya. There's something called a key party. It's a form of a swinger party in which attendees walk into a bungalow and they collect a key from a common bowl or bag on arrival. The key possesses a room number similar to a hotel, and you walk into a waiting partner. They're called key parties. There are others called red tape events. Red tape parties involve wearing a tape on your arm whose color code suggests your status and orientation. Green simply means gives one the green light, free and ready to indulge. All right? Yellow means you're here to mingle, but hey, who knows? You could be lucky. Okay? Red means I have company or my partner is around. With a freer attitude towards sexual activity being the norm, our sexual appetite might just be dynamic as the evolution of technology. There's masquerade parties and there's wet and wild parties. Do not mistake this to be the flimsy campus age pool parties. No. These ones are different. Yeah. Read the Nairobian. Bang in the middle of the Nairobian. Fait accompli. The other side of Rigiji exposed. Deputy President accused of grabbing his late brother's money and property, disinheriting widow and orphans. That's what they're looking at. So this other side of that, those allegations that were taken where? To Bunge. Okay? As we go to look at What's in the Taifa Leo? Sakaja akosa kutoa ushahidi. Gavana wa Nairobi na katibu wa wizara wakosa kufika mbele ya seneti. They were scheduled to be witnesses in the case against Rigathi Gachagua. Maandalizi ya Mashujaa Day yaisha. Katibu asema kaunti ya Kwale iko tayari kuandaa hafla hiyo mnamo Oktoba 20. Pigo kwa Mandago kuhusu kesi. Koti ya amuru kesi kuhusu kashfa ya ufadhili wa masomo Finland iendelee. The investigators and the prosecutor were saying that they would like to withdraw. The court said no, it must continue. Lori la mafuta laua watu 147 nchini Nigeria. 147. 50 waendelea kupata matibabu baada ya lori la mafuta kuhusika kwenye ajali na kulipuka.
Gosh.
Yep. And fuel carrying truck exploded.
It had an accident, then it exploded.
It exploded.
Okay.
Yeah, 147 people.
The accident preceded the explosion.
Yes. 147 people died. Higher. The headline. They have a photo here of Rigiji walking, and then it's superimposed against a photo in the background of the Senate. And then they've written, jaribio la mwisho la naibu rais kujinusuru katika seneti la kataliwa kwa wingi wa kura. Maseneta jana walikataa kumhurumia naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua na kuendelea na mchakato wa kumtimua mamlakani licha ya kufahamishwa kuwa aliugua ghafla na kulazwa hospitalini. The headline, Maskini Gachagua.
There's something, did you mention this? It's on page 4 of the Nairobian. Worrying trend of female students dying under mysterious circumstances.
No.
Yes.
It's there.
Yes, it's there. And
we'll look at it. We'll look at it later. Yeah, let's look at traffic. It's 22 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
So the way it looks like on this road, it's clear. It's all clear. There's nothing to report. Coming into town from all sides, Mombasa Road, from North Airport Road, from Langata Road, from Gong Road, from Jogoo Road, from Juja Road, from Wayakiwe, from Limuru Road, from Lower Kabete Road, from Thika Road, from Kiambu Road, all clear.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What's that story on page 4 of the Nairobi? What's it saying?
It says, worrying trend of female students dying under mysterious circumstances. Some of the learners were murdered by their lovers or strangers. Others were shot by the police during protests, while others committed suicide.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag. And they say,
none of them are students.
They're students. A good number of them are students. And then the names they even mentioned. Let me start. There was a young lady who was a medical student at Moi University. Remember that the young lady was hacked to death by what was reported as a jilted lover.
Yeah.
Her name was Ivy. Then there's Faith Adongo Wino, who was fatally stabbed by known attackers outside Pwani University on October 20th, 2023. Then there was Mercy Cherono, a nursing student at Daystar University, died mysteriously after she was admitted to the institution. Then there was Harriet Mora Nyaboga, a first-year student at Machakos University, was killed in her boyfriend's house following a heated argument. Then there was Rita Waini, 20-year student at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, was murdered on January 14th, 2024 at an Airbnb in Roysambu, and her dismembered body stuffed in a dumpster. Yes. The psychologist quoted here, Cecilia Mutemi, says that some of these cases could indeed be murders. The government and security teams within university need to work on ensuring the safety of female students. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it needs to be brought back up as a big national conversation.
It is a conversation.
Safety of students, especially the young ladies. You know, you reminded me this. I've had several conversations with young ladies, nieces, friends, mentees, and these are just university and slightly post-university. And you hear, some things that you assume, you take for granted. So, for example, this young girl is telling me, in university, there are 2 places that sell smokies. Okay, 2 smoky vendors. One on one side of the campus, the other on another side of the campus. Okay, now this girl was telling me that the one on one side of the campus had the best smokies. Like everybody loved those ones. I don't understand. These ones are sweeter than the other on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one that is not as sweet is closer. The one that is closer to her hostel
is further.
Is further to the hostel. It means, though, that the one that is the sweeter one is closer to the men's hostel. Now, the girl would not walk to go buy smokies from that side if she's alone. She'd have to go with, a friend that goes as a group. And this is because when you're going to that side of the hostel, you'll find, of course, guys outside their hostel, they're sitting on a piga gumzo and so on and so forth. Others are sitting next to that smoky guy. They'll not do anything. But there'll be all those catcallings. There'll be things. So you're walking in there and you're buying your smokies and you're walking back and then there's catcalling. There's all those things.
Yes, it may be light banter, but some people it's verbal harassment.
It is. They consider it proper harassment. It's those ones of sasa nini you smile. Nini that's always a smile. Nani wakasirisha. The back and forth, but it's constant. And it's until you walk away. Ay, bwana. That. If you think about it from the men's perspective, and you think,
it's light.
These are young guys, it's just light talk.
But the
recipient is not considering that light.
And they're not amused either.
They're not. Another story of a young lady who told me that when she is taking a matatu, she has to be very, very calculating on how she enters that matatu. She'll go to a stage, the matatu will come, she'll first of all look. How many people are in this matatu? How many women are in this matatu? If it has very many men, no woman, she's
not boarding that matatu.
If it has many men and maybe just one woman, she is not boarding. You have to consider all those things before you actually take a step onto a matatu. Some of these things you just assume that, but these young girls are living another life that is just constant harassment. Or you're in a matatu and you've sat at the back and you're the only person in the back seat and all these other guys are gentlemen. You don't know. So these are conversations that need to happen. They need to happen on like, what are these young men and women living with and going through?
You know what you just said? Here we are reading these stories and mentioning the names. What do you think a young lady who's in this age bracket reads when she reads it? How does she feel and how does she respond to all of it?
Yep.
Because what this means to her is very different.
For us, it's a story.
It is a story of a young woman.
Yeah.
A tragic story, but for a young woman, it is not a tragic story.
Yep.
It's a threat to her life. She realizes, this isn't good.
Yep.
There is a story that is being told here of a protester, okay? And how it is that when young people came out and decided that they were going to express what is their thought, the story is told of a young protester called Immaculate Nekesa, also known to her friends as Ashley Magero. She's recorded that she had a vibrant spirit, and she even, one of the memorable occasions, she was lecturing an anti-riot police officer who came to arrest her on the streets of Nairobi. Okay? Now, the impression that was given by this particular lady was she was fearless. Okay? Completely fearless.
She faced them
head on. Yes. Unfortunately, some of these stories don't end up that well, do they? Yes. Because what happens is people who are known to express their honest opinions in this country in that manner, it is tragic when you hear that they have passed away. There are those who can argue. I'm not saying this lady passed away. I'm just giving an example. And I'm saying that if it's under circumstances that are not clear, then the question of were they actually killed deliberately has to be asked.
Yeah.
And why is it that only young girls are being targeted?
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
it's a big one. It's a big story.
No, it is a big story.
There's another story. Now this one is from a sad story to a funny story. Okay, in the Nairobian. Man loses teeth in row over sagging trousers.
What happened?
A miraa seller in Isli has been arraigned at a Makadara law courts for allegedly causing grievous harm to a client who had advised him to pull up his trousers, which were almost dropping down. Halal Ali Warsame is accused of knocking out Abdullahi Abdi Mohammed's teeth on October 2nd at Isli area in Kamukunji sub-county. On the stated day, Abdi, who's a driver in Nairobi, said he had joined his friends at a miraa chewing den after work. He was handed over a bunch, but before he sat down to enjoy it, he noticed that Warsame's trouser was almost falling off. He advised him to pull up his trousers. This did not, however, go down well with Warsame, who told Abdi to mind his business. Abdi insisted that Warsame should wear his trousers properly. This irked the accused, who immediately fell on Abdi with heavy blows on the mouth, knocking off his upper teeth. He was rescued by fellow miraa chewers who rushed him to hospital, where he was treated and discharged. Following his arrest, the accused denied the charges. He was granted a bond of 100,000 shillings pending hearing on May 28th next year. Case is May 28th next year. Small thing to hey, Waria, pandisha trouser.
Shida
yako ni nini? Yes, trouser vizuri.
But clearly these people were known to each other. Maybe this guy had a bad day. You know, that's assault, my friend. You may think it is light. That thing can take you far. You know, I didn't mention what was in the Star. Yes, but it's the same story that is covered in literally all the papers. Literally.
It's the Skachagwa.
Yes, grace to grass. That is the headline.
Wow.
Yes. Uncertain future, heart attack fears, as senators vote to remove Deputy President Gachagua. Siasa, next choice of next DP will have huge impact on the rest of the president's term. That is true. Yes. Remember there was this story a while back of two rally drivers. One was called Asad, the other one was called Maxine Wahome.
Yes.
And there was a problem, and that problem resulted in one of them dying. This is the headline of the story as it's carried out in the Star. City rally driver Asad died from multiple organ failure, witness. He had a cut on his right leg that caused excessive bleeding, medics tell court. Somebody must have nicked a blood vessel. Nairobi rally driver Asad Khan died from multiple organ failure and excessive bleeding, the court was told. Dr. Hussein Musaji from Avenue Hospital told trial judge Lilian Mutende that bleeding from a cut wound on his right leg, lower leg. He explained it was possible the disease contracted sepsis, blood infection, because the injury on the limb could not be classified as fatal. Asad lost a lot of blood. The injury on his leg wasn't the automatic cause of his death. This was first taken in Nairobi Hospital, transferred to Avenue on the request of his relatives. He suffered a cardiac arrest while at Nairobi Hospital. His heart stopped. He had to be resuscitated. His organs were in a bad state, he said. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
The hearing resumes on Tuesday.
I really felt sorry for, in that case, in that story.
It's a tragic thing, isn't it?
It's a very tragic thing. It's a tragic thing even for the young lady.
It's tragic.
It's for the young lady, Maxine Wahome. She was a budding, promising. She loved rallying, driving cars. I mean, this is something that's how she even ended up in a relationship with this guy. It's a really sad story.
No, this is tragic. This is very tragic indeed.
It's a sad one. There's a mechanic who has pleaded not guilty to charges of shoplifting after being accused of stealing underwear, removing sensor tags from new clothes, wearing them, and drinking alcohol in a changing room.
Hey, repeat those things again.
Guy goes to a clothes shop. He takes underwear from the he removes the tags. He gets into the changing room. He wears the underwear, and then he starts drinking. Are we together?
Yes.
According to court papers, his name is Glenn.
Glenn Fiddish.
According to court papers, Glenn Byron Omondi allegedly stole assorted goods, including learning stationery, grooming products, baby massage oil, juice and yogurt on August 22nd at Muhindi Mosi supermarket in Kayole Njiro sub-county. The charge sheet further details that Omondi is accused of stealing 6 pairs of ladies' underwear, 3 boxers, a t-shirt, 3 jumpers, a clipboard, roasted peanuts, a pair of men's shoes, a trouser, a pullover, school socks, a water bottle, and chrome gin. On that day, Omondi reportedly entered the supermarket and went directly to the food section, where he ate a meal costing 255 bob. He promised to pay, saying he wanted to shop first and then settle the bill later. Omondi was allowed to proceed. The store's loss control manager continued monitoring him. The footage captured him picking up a packet of roasted peanuts, followed by a pair of shoes and a trouser. He then headed to the changing room, where he allegedly removed sensor tags from the items. After exiting, he continued shoplifting and returning to the changing room, stashing the items inside the newly acquired clothes. What particularly caught the attention of the store manager was when Omondi picked a bottle of alcohol and water, returned to the changing room, and began drinking the alcohol after mixing it with water. He spent an unusually long time in the changing room, prompting attendants to check on him, only to find him enjoying his drink. Omondi was taken to a search room where it was discovered that he had layered the stolen new clothes over the ones that he had originally worn. He was given the opportunity to pay for the shoplifting items, but he could not do so. The police were called. He was arrested. When he was arraigned before Makadara Principal Magistrate Ann Mwangi Waheto, he pleaded not guilty to the charges and was released on a cash bail of 17,000 shillings pending hearing. Alichukua njugu, akachukua tunguo namna hii, akachukua chrome, akachukua maji, akarudi kwa changing room. Na unakumbuka kwanza alikuwa ameweka foundation na chakula pale kwa the food section.
He had a good day. That was just before the bad day began.
What do you think was running through his mind? Was like, do you think it was intentional? Like he had come to this supermarket and said,
he didn't have any money.
Leo nakula, nakunywa,
no,
na navaa.
We do not know the hassle this guy had gone through, but he decided, you know something? Today I'm going to have a good Today, all the other things that may follow, we'll think about later. So first of all, let me go and eat. Ate. Said, don't worry, I'm going to pay. Went next door. Said,
the same supermarket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hii Chrome nasikiaga watu wananio
before Chrome
njugu.
Before Chrome njugu.
Njugu, yes, very good. Ameambiwa njugu inaendaka vizuri na Chrome.
And then akachukua chakula, akachukua trouser.
Trouser.
Na underwear. Akaenda akachange.
Nini akachange so that at least now
sasa huku nje sasa ameng'ara.
Sasa okay, tuko sawa.
Chrome.
Ngoja tusherehe kidogo.
Achukua kiroma na maji.
Na maji and then na njugu. See, the guy wasn't trying to run away. He was relaxed, sitting, enjoying his peanuts and drinking his Chrome. Now,
and new clothes.
And new clothes. That guy was feeling good. Now he's enjoying the aftermath. Hey, whatever he is, I thought, unajua, at least me I had a good day. Even if I'm here, it is okay. But I had a good day. Hey.
That's one.
No, that was an interesting story, man. Like to hear how it ends and what they decide. How much did he end up? How much did he actually owe in total? Do they say?
He's been released on a 17,000 bob bond.
He was released, huh?
But umesikia hizo vitu zote amechukua hapo bwana. Kuna nguo, there is trouser, there is njugu, there is pombe, there is maji, there is women's underwear.
Your bond. Kuna mtu amekuja amelipa hiyo kitu?
Sijui.
Or is it a free bond?
Sijui. Yeah, it's a cash bond.
Cash bond?
It's bond.
Then kama mtu amelipa, then we need to ask what is going on through this guy's mind. Because bwana, you don't wake up.
Hey, Glenn.
Glenn has made your day, eh?
Hiya, to something serious as we conclude.
Yep.
I have one Adani deal. You can tell us the other Adani deal. The other Adani deal is a title deed. Let me tell you this one of power. Kenya is betting on reducing mounting system losses on the high voltage power transmission lines that are to be built by Adani's India's Adani Group. Energy CS Opiyo Wandayi said yesterday that Kenya is counting on PPPs to finance the construction. He added that the aging electricity transmission and distribution networks have led to blackouts and made power costly through high systems. So now he says the Adani Group has Wandayi says reduced system losses would ultimately reduce blackouts and electricity bills. The improved infrastructure that will come as a result of execution of this project by Ketraco and Adani will help us address one of the biggest challenges that the sector is facing. The technical and commercial losses stand at 24%, which is not sustainable. That's what the minister said. With modern infrastructure, we shall have dealt with the issue of losses, and that will ensure the eventual cost of power decreases. It makes sense if you think about it in sounding this way. Our old transmission lines, and even the effort that has been made by Ketraco, because Ketraco, truth be told, in the last, let's say 15, 20 years, has actually done quite a bit in terms of just new transmission lines. But there's still a lot to be done. For example, remember what the KPLC MD was telling us. Your Muhoroni line, it has taken forever. The instability of power in the Nyanza into South Nyanza region is because we don't have proper stable transmission lines.
Yes, and those
we have to
and they're old.
And they're old. And we have to evacuate power from Suswa to take it all the way.
In a big around.
Yeah. So we need a proper transmission that is stable, that takes power to Muhoroni substation, starts then distributing to that region. Stabilize the system because of these losses. Now, if you don't have high power lines, it means that you're using just those kawaida two lines. Those ones cause high losses. To reduce losses, you need high voltage power lines. If you have the lower voltage power lines, you get losses. 24% of losses. The energy guy called Kengen has sold power to Kenya Power. All right. Ketraco takes power and is taking it to Kenya Power. Kenya Power is now taking that power
to the individuals. Or to the consumer.
But the power that is arriving to Kenya Power
is not what Kengen...
24% less what Kengen gave to Kenya Power.
Yes.
So Kenya Power is absorbing those losses. Again, now Kenya Power distributing it to your home, more losses. So that is costly. It ends up being very, very costly for everyone.
This the justification for this was made a long time ago, and there has been need for these changes for the very longest time. Yes, unfortunately, it's a Adani.
The problem now is it's a transparency around these deals.
Yeah,
it's okay to do PPP, but just be very clear and let everybody know that this is how we are approaching it.
Why does the government have difficulty in doing just that? Because as we say it sounds very simple, but the government seems to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And it's not one thing. We always ask, guys, can you tell us a little bit more about this thing?
Story. Story.
Okay, explain to us how this is happening.
You people don't understand. It's too early to tell you.
Yes, and by this deal is in the discussion stage. Then you're told...
You're asking questions too early.
Then you're told the next thing, they've signed the deal. Said, but I thought you said this thing was still in the discussion phase. Yes.
Yeah. That's the issue.
And the story goes on, doesn't it?
It goes on and on and on. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour. In the next 2 hours, we're going to be discussing the constitutional matters surrounding the impeachment of the deputy president, the replacement of an impeached deputy president. What should we expect to see in the next 14 plus 60 days, right? What is it that we expect to see in terms of the constitution? And then what happens to Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua? If he decides to pursue this further in courts, what does it imply? Abdikadir Mohammed was a former MP, former chair of the Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee, and Dr. Okoh was the CEO of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been impeached following a 2-day exercise that entailed volumes of evidence and hours of cross-examination. Gachagua is presently admitted at the Current Hospital, was hosted after senators voted in favor of 5 out of the 11 grounds presented as grounds for his impeachment. 54 senators voted in support of the first count of gross violation of Articles 10, 27, 73, 75, 129 of the Constitution, while only 13 senators voted against it.
Ground number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Now, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Article 145(7) and 151(b) and 2 of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(8) of the Senate has resolved to remove from office by impeachment His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, AGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Accordingly, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, AGH, ceases to hold office.
The senators voted after debate in Parliament, with some senators claiming that it was unfair for the sessions to continue when Gachagua was not there to defend himself. His lawyers raised objection to the process continuing without their client's appearance, insisting that it was an illegality.
There is no rule that says that you can be condemned unhand. So when the Senate decided to take that approach, we decided to take leave, because we'll be sitting in a nut, or rather we shall be perpetuating an illegality if we were to sit in Parliament without adequate instructions from our client.
He is currently suffering intense chest pains. I did not want to inquire beyond that, Mheshimiwa Speaker.
From the beginning of the process, Gachagua vowed to fight to the end, insisting that he is innocent. Gachagua, however, has the opportunity to file an appeal in court against the decision. Now, a section of senators from Mount Kenya have warned that the impeachment of DP Rigathi Gachagua will affect the relationship between President William Ruto and the region politically. Led by Nyandarua Senator John Methu and Muranga Senator Joseph Nyutu, the senators criticized the Senate's decision to impeach Gachagua, insisting that he was not given an opportunity to respond to the charges leveled against him.
This is a political decision that has been made. We have been able to try and test the evidence. So I actually feel that this is not a motion that can be able to stand in a court of law that will be able to look at the facts and the evidence that has been provided in such a motion of that magnitude.
And they did not even want to consider that his legal team decided to leave. We are Africans. We cannot condemn a man that is admitted in hospital. And I think it's a sad day for Kenya. And I think we will have our day in court. And I want to believe that the courts are going to overturn this most unfair trial process and the judgment passed by my colleagues, the senators.
Other senators who opposed the charges, including Kajiado Senator Sekulenko, regretted the decision, calling it a failure to respect the justice system by not giving Gachagua an opportunity to defend himself.
Hii decision ambayo imechukuliwa na Senate haijaangalia mambo ambayo inahusiana na hali ambaye Deputy President ameweza kuweka katika Senate ya Kenya, kwamba amegonjeka, hakuweza kupata nafasi ya kuulizwa maswali yale ambaye yameletwa na yule MP ambaye ameleta malalamisho haya. So tunataka kusema ya kwamba haiko fair.
Now, it is highly anticipated that President William Ruto might present the name of his new deputy president to the National Assembly today, following the removal from office of Rigathi Gachagua. Senate Speaker Mason King already gazetted the historic decision of the Senate to impeach Gachagua from the position. Now, in office, the National Assembly will today hold a special sitting to discuss various issues regarding the impeachment, with Majority Whip Silvanus Osoro saying that the time will be used to make up for the time spent on public participation during the impeachment exercise. It is reported that Ruto might use today's sitting to officially present the name of Gachagua's successor. According to the Standard newspaper, an anonymous member of parliament said that Chief Justice Martha Koome will swear in a new deputy president Saturday. Those expected to fill Gachagwa's shoes are Interior CS Professor Kithure Kindiki, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, Murang'a Governor Irungu Kang'ata, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, as well as Laikipia East Member of Parliament Mwangi Kiunjuri. We are following up on this developing story. Be sure that the Standard Media Group will be bringing you the very latest across the day and as the story develops. I'm Dennis Asata. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, so the traffic is all right. Coming into town, it's okay. Coming into town, that is from Mombasa Road, the traffic is fine. On Langata Road, traffic is all right. On Ngong Road, coming towards town, traffic is fine. On Ngong Road, heading towards Karen, traffic is okay. On Thika Superhighway coming towards town, the traffic is all right. On Thika Superhighway heading out of town into Thika Superhighway, into Keno Marua Road, that road is okay. So from Nairobi to Keno Marua Road, that means to Karatina Road is clear. Outbound from Nairobi. From Nairobi to Madera, therefore, there's no traffic at all. Yeah, if you're going home on retirement, you can go there.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 7. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. This is Kenya's biggest conversation on this 18th day of October 2024. How you doing? Remember, the Aga Khan University Hospital reminds you that, you go to hospital, you get see a doctor, and then you're diagnosed, and then you're put on a treatment regime. Now, you don't have to keep going back to hospital to go see the doctor all the time. At your niko na appointment na daktari, because you see, I'm going through this physio. I had a small minor operation. We are dealing with the wound management. You don't have to keep going back to hospital for that. They are offering the home-based care, which means that they can send the people that you need to your home. If it's a physio, they'll come to your home. If it's a nurse and you're just doing, wound management, someone just comes to check on your wound and how you're healing, they can send that person to your home. Even a doctor can make rounds to your home to come and see how you're doing in your journey to recovery. See, that's much better than this headache of saying that you stay in hospital or keep coming to hospital. Sijui umekuja umetoka mbali, kuja lala ndio urudi kesho and all those things. And then you're coming now because we need to do some more tests. So come, spend the night here so that tomorrow morning you'll be very okay. You'll not have eaten. We're controlling your sugar so that we can draw the blood, and they can send even that, a mobile lab unit, to your home to take the samples, take them to the lab, and then the results will be uploaded on your portal. They'll be sent to you on email. When the doctor comes, there's your results.
And if it's medicine that you require, you do not need to go back to hospital to get it. It can be brought to you.
Imagine.
Yes.
This is what home-based care by the Aga Khan University Hospital is all about, and that's what it means. Big thing, isn't it?
Big.
Very, very, very big. Big thing. This is a big day in Kenya. In fact, with that Gazette notice should have come a declaration of a public holiday.
Yeah.
These people don't get these things, do they? They just don't get it.
Don't you get enough of holidays, Eric?
No, nobody.
There are too many holidays.
There's
even another
enough.
one coming in tomorrow. No, Monday. Yeah. Sunday and Monday.
Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
Right? And then another one within the next 60 days or so, there'll be another public holiday for swearing in of a new DP. right?
Although the DP will be unveiled in Kwale.
Sasa nyinyi ndio mtatuambia. Nyinyi ndio mtatuambia. The reason why these two gentlemen are here, and who are the two gentlemen? Now, I want to take you back again into the journey of our 2010 constitution. After our failed attempt in 2005, there was a fresh attempt. And that parliament, what parliament was it?
10th.
It was the 10th parliament of 2008 to 2013 decided, we have got to realize our constitution now. Let us put in timelines on how this thing is going to work. Let us set up a committee whose focus will solely be on delivering a constitution. It was called the Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitution Review. It had several members, and the chairman was the then MP for Mandera North, Abdulkadir Mohammed. They sat down. They looked at what do we need. We need a committee that will look at these things. We call them committee of experts. The other one we call them Constitution Review Commission. No, this one let's call it committee of experts. Let's bring in local and international expertise and put it in there so we can get a constitution. The committee needed a secretariat. They picked one person to be the head of the secretariat, the CEO, Dr. Okoh, was the CEO of that committee of experts on constitution review. They worked diligently, very hard. They looked at very many constitutions, including the unwritten constitution of the UK, and they gave us the harmonized draft constitution. And then Abdulkadir and his pals went to Naivasha.
And thereafter?
And they did the thing that they did. Then we had a referendum, and the people by a big majority voted yes, and we promulgated a new constitution. And to implement the constitution, we needed now various things to happen. So Abdulkadir's committee now became the Implementation Oversight Committee.
A new committee, actually.
A new committee.
First one was disbanded and a new committee.
A new one formed. But because this guy had done a very good job of chairing the other one and midwifing the constitution.
And people were happy with him.
Yeah, the 10th parliament was like, who else do we... Let's give the same guy. He knows this journey. So Abdulkadir became the chair of the new one, right? The committee oversighting the implementation of the constitution. The proper name for it was the Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee.
Yes.
And then Nakuru Court's job ended. Akapewa gratuity. Akaenda nyumbani. Akaenda kuandika katiba sijui Liberia sijui wapi.
South Sudan.
Right? Now they're both here. Because they know this Constitution of Kenya 2010 very well, that's why we thought, let's actually bring these two gentlemen so we can look at where we are at and where we're heading. Karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and good to see you, Dr. after many months or moons.
Many moons, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys did a good job.
Asante.
City will therefore give you the day's proverb. Of course, City goes to an African country, and he brings proverbs from that country. I don't know whether Ikuru you have tried to work on their constitution. Which country are we?
We are in the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria.
No, I only went to Tunisia.
And Egypt also. We met in Egypt.
Yes.
Yes. You did
No.
We were in a panel of experts after the Arab Spring.
Yes.
You've done a wonderful thing. Brothers can now compare notes.
Very good.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay. This is our final day of Proverbs from this wonderful country. A country that is bordered by Tunisia, Libya, Niger, Mali, Western Sahara, Morocco, the Mediterranean Sea. Yes, and whose capital is Algiers, and its population is just 46 million people. They are not few. Right. The proverb. The absent always has a justification.
The absent
always has
a justification.
Yes.
What's your interpretation of this one, Abdulkadir?
The absent always has a justification. We have not directly, but a fairly similar in the Somali language, that maybe, if that is the meaning, that those who wish to lie will pick somebody absent as a witness. So probably
say it in Kisomali. Then low. I'm somewhere close.
Yes.
But it comes from the witness.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, it is that those who wish to lie pick for a witness somebody absent, or the camel herder, because most likely the camel herder is away.
Safi. Ekuru, what's yours?
So absent as a justification.
Yes, the absent always.
The absent always has justification.
Yes.
I think, for me, I'll put it very simply. There is a reason why we do things or we do not do things. Okay. Just like there's a reason why Gachagua has been impeached.
Or there was a hospital visit.
Exactly. Yes. That's a nice one.
There is a reason.
There's a reason why Gachagua has been impeached.
Yeah.
Or why he was absent in the Senate. To defend.
Tell me, Dr. Okot, in the Constitution, as it is written now, in the spirit and letter of the Constitution, why was a presidential candidate forced to join in the hip with a running mate?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it was about the importance of the presidency itself, the importance of that office. And let me take you back, Kenyans, to Article 139, if I'm not wrong. See, Article 139 of the Constitution, this is death before assuming office. That's the importance they placed in the presidency. And because it was about also succession planning, so that we don't have to have a by-election when a president dies. Or, you remember, we came back from the era of Khan where Moi will just pick anybody and will fire them willy-nilly as he wishes. And I think that was very disruptive. And I think we wanted an elegant system process where there is succession. So you are all actually qualified to be president. And Article 139 is very clear. For example, should the president die, election is cancelled. That is the premium we are putting on the presidency.
The candidate.
A candidate. Yeah. Even before, even the deputy president. Even the deputy president, when he dies before we go into election, again, the election is actually cancelled. So the obligation was placed on the person wanting to be president. Pick somebody who is your equivalent, like first among equals. Pick somebody who is equivalent, who can help you. And if you look at the provisions of Article, I think 147, that says about that the deputy president shall be the principal assistant and shall deputize the president. In other words, actually, is a president in waiting. So we do not want this thing of by-election. And election in Kenya is very costly. I'm sure if you bring an IBC person here to crack for you the figures, for an economy such as ours, we thought, why can't we, just have an elegant, presidency going forward, so that should the president be impeached, for example, on the grounds be impeached or removed on the grounds of incapacity, as Article 140 or 144, I think, prescribes, then I think there will be a successor who is equally fast like him.
Yeah.
Something I didn't understand when you said referring to the death of either the president or the deputy
before election,
the candidates
before
election,
an election,
before assuming office.
Did I hear you to be saying that then that process is nullified?
Yes, it's cancelled. We go back to the drawing board.
We go back to the drawing board.
Article 139 of the Constitution. That's how much premium we have placed on the presidency. So that even when we must remove a president or a deputy president, we must think twice.
And so that you don't go shooting around your opponent, assuming we're only two, I have sorted you out, I'm then going to go have an easy ride becoming a president.
So even for you who is malicious, who's thinking that Abdikadir is my competitor, let me abduct him.
You cannot
do that. And that's why the state will provide security for both the president and the deputy president during electionary time. So long as you've been cleared.
As soon as you're nominated by ABC.
Right. Then already the security apparatus kicks in to protect you. Because we cannot afford to nullify an election.
Right. So then after an election of the Kadir, and those two assume office, the president and the deputy president, right? So then there's a provision now that's given on how they work. And if there's any need to create vacancy in that office, well, not need. If a vacancy were to occur in that office, there are several ways. One, they can resign. Two.
Yeah, so just first of all, just like the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice, the President and the Deputy President, the processes are almost a mirror. Removing a president, the qualification, or they are a mirror of, because as Dr. said, you are essentially a president in waiting. So they can resign. They could die, human beings. They could live by way of incapacity. and there is a procedure for doing that.
Yeah.
So for example, many thought the current president of the US isn't fit to hold that office. Typically what happens is they have a procedure under their constitution. We have a procedure under our constitution where if that was the case, there is a process by which you can now confirm that this has happened, and they are very clear. And the star actor then is the Chief Justice setting up a ABCD. And then you could be impeached. Where now the forum is the political actually let me
arena.
The political arena. But let me just backtrack a little bit. You said elected, right?
Yes.
So when you are elected, the first way you can be is an election petition. So you could immediately after your election be told, okay, you are elected, but you are not validly elected. So that's the first. The second is you could resign a week later and say, it's not the way.
In 2017.
Yes. So there you go. So you could say, maybe this is not what I signed for.
I didn't sign up for this thing.
There you go. And then nature could take its course, and you could pass on, and then you could be found incapacitated. You could be found not to have capacity to be president or deputy president, and then you could be impeached. So the way I like looking at it is two of them really, either death or you resigning, don't require, they require processes, but not really very controversial processes. It's you resigning or God deciding you are
God
not
resigning you.
These other three have very elaborate processes. The first one is election petition. An election petition of the president and the deputy president is different from all other election petitions. All other election petitions, the holder sits in office while the case goes on.
Yeah.
These two are required not to sit in office, to cool their heels while the case goes on, out of our constitutional history. The second is the specific court handling this is specified. So election petition for the president, deputy president, Supreme Court only.
Yeah.
So those who say, for example, that the High Court has unlimited jurisdiction, the Constitution says this one, none of your business, Mr. High Court. This is the business of the Supreme Court. Only. Why, in my opinion? So that you have limited time. Remember, the president is sitting out.
Yeah.
He or she is not doing the job. You want to have, so you don't want to go through High Court, Court of Appeal, all the way to the Supreme Court. Yes.
Just walk us through this again.
Yes.
When the president and the deputy are sitting out, what do you mean?
So they are president-elect. They are not in office. Actually, if you remember,
they have been elected and there is an issue, so they have not been sworn in.
They have been elected, and the Constitution says you should not be sworn in for this period to see whether somebody is going to challenge your election by way of an election petition.
Okay.
And if the election petition actually comes, which is almost always the case, then we are going to have a month or so to sort out all that business, so that by the time now you are assuming office, there is no legal challenge to your election, or the petition has succeeded and now we are going for a by-election.
Which means the outgoing president still holds on.
Yes. So the outgoing president, so for example, look at the American setup. November is when the election happens.
And 20th January.
January is when the president is sworn. That period, we have a similar period. Ours is about a month. So the former president holds office. And by the way, there are certain things he or she can't do in that period. In the period when he or she is holding over, there are certain powers
are removed.
They are denied because their term is extended. But let's go to the earlier process.
Right.
And the reason I'm going to the details is because some people think tulibahatisha, hatukubahatisha. So my view is the lawyers who feel that the current impeachment process needs to then be subjected to a very long court process. Assume that, okay, we stated this is the impeachment process. Nowhere in that article is there a reference to court or the High Court or the Supreme Court. And the lawyers who go to that then say, look, you need to now go to the chapter on the judiciary and the chapter on the plenary powers of the High Court, which are unlimited. And it's true. The High Court has unlimited jurisdiction, prima facie. and say now then we need to subject the impeachment process to a very long court process, starting with an ex parte hearing by one judge, like happened with the president for the governors, with the current governor for Meru, where a single judge ex parte gives a stay order, and then all the way to the appeals process. You go through the High Court, you go through the Court of Appeal, you go through the Supreme Court. And for the Wambora case, that took 4 years. That took 4 years, and by the time the process was done, Wambora had served his term. And the interesting bit was, at the High Court said he was not properly impeached. He was not properly impeached. And not only was he not properly impeached there, but because they had given an interim order while the process was at the county assembly, that the county assembly speaker, having disregarded the order, was guilty of contempt.
Right.
And the Court of Appeal agreed with the High Court. But the Supreme Court, rightly in my view, said he was properly impeached and he should not have been holding office. Now, why I come to this long process is, if we were to subject, in my opinion, and that now is not the very popular view right now, because of our politics and because of the unpopularity of Parliament, that is not a very popular view. And because most lawyers naturally are inclined towards giving people the right to hearing, the entire elaborate processes under our court processes. I'm a lawyer. I definitely understand that. I absolutely agree that our current parliament is bure kabisa. In fact, as Kibaki would say, bloody bure kabisa. but think about it. If you were to subject, not a deputy, but or a governor, but if you were to subject a presidential impeachment to a court process after the impeachment,
right?
How does it start? You must have 1/3 of the members of the National Assembly agreeing to start. Just turning that key.
Yes.
You require a third of the MPs. Then you need to have 2/3 agree with you after the process.
Yeah.
And then don't stop there. Go to the other house. Go to the other chamber. And then you have a process. And after that, 2/3 agree with you. Now, after all that, go to a single judge in the High Court. And then go through the High Court process, very slow, go to the Court of Appeal. My view is, practically speaking, you will have neutered impeachment, number one. Number two, impeachment is an oversight mechanism by the political arm. So, for example, we want our parliamentarians or our parliament to hold executive officials accountable. How does it do that? The most potent weapon they have is the impeachment weapon. The ability to fire a minister or a president. It's a very powerful. If we completely remove that, practically speaking now, their ability to actually implement oversight will be. Right now, that's not very popular because of politics
because
involved.
Of the nature of the current situation. Okay. So, Akuru, do you agree with that? Do you agree with what the senior counsel is saying? I mean, that impeachment is and therefore should purely be left to the two chambers of Parliament?
Yes and no. Because as he rightfully said, that we have got a bure kabisa parliament today. And even members of the parliament themselves, many of them have confessed that actually this is the worst parliament we ever had. For example, the reason I do not agree entirely with Abdikadir is that if you look at, for example, the key witness, Mwengi Mutuse, the man who, I mean, allegedly is a lawyer. He said he's a lawyer.
Allegedly,
okay, he said he's a lawyer. Fine. But he was asked these questions, not just me. He was asked this question directly, that as a lawyer, there are certain things as a lawyer we expect of you. You see, this is a man who brought charges against the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. But he could not substantiate. He kept on saying, I believe, it appears so. This is a person who could not even, articulate. He did not provide any evidence, for example. And some of the members of Senate actually asked very tough questions, which were not answered. So for me, the question really is, was that really a fair trial for Rigiji? And that's why there is a window of opportunity for him to say no. The way I was misled, for example, let's look at Article 145, Sub-Article 5, which says that he shall present himself. He must appear, shall, and be represented. Now,
so this is both.
It's both because you see, regarding nobody chooses when to fall sick.
Yeah.
You can have a heart attack now. You can faint, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But the Constitution, the wording in the Constitution, even before we go to the spirit, is that you must afford this man an opportunity to defend himself.
Okay.
Just the same way Mutuze came and gave evidence. Yeah. And there was a window. I know there's a 10-day period, which was lapsing on Saturday. And because the importance of this office, we could even sit on Sunday, if need be, or even that Saturday, as Speaker Kingi had actually suggested that there is an option for us to sit on Saturday. And then hopefully this the accused person can actually come before court, because that already is an infringement of Article 50 of the Constitution to fair hearing. Okay, so now, when you look at the totality of what was happening, let's go back to the National Assembly. You have parliamentarians who said, we signed this impeachment on the promise that one of our own will be appointed a deputy president. And they were referring to Kindiki Kithure. This is the MP for Imenti Central. Now, you want to tell me, really, did that man interrogate the charge sheet against Rigathi Gachagua? He never interrogated at all. He never put his mind into saying, okay, this allegation of undermining, for example, the president, this charge of undermining the president, did the supervisor, like Justice Elisha Ongoya, Advocate Elisha Ongoya, rightfully asked him, did the supervisor complain that I'm being undermined? There was no affidavit from President Ruto that my deputy is actually undermining me. It's a factor of evidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in the Constitution, that's what we said in our topic today.
Yeah.
It's the spirit
and
the letter of the Constitution. In the spirit and letter of our Constitution, does it expect that the National Assembly and the Senate will actually do their job? Right?
Absolutely.
Such that when Mwenge Mutuze, for example, comes up with his motion and is seeking support, that the 1/3 members of the National Assembly who append their signature will have looked at the charges. They'll have interrogated the judge and said, yes, I think we have something here that I support this. That's the expectation, right? Second expectation is that in the hearings in the National Assembly, right, that the members of the National Assembly who then vote on that motion will be voting after having interrogated the charges brought before. That's the expectation. Spirit. In the Senate, where the hearing then takes place, where the trial takes place, the expectation is that even the examination and cross-examination of the witnesses who come there, the senators will be looking at it and looking at not politics, but looking at what's just and what's not just. That's the expectation, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Remember,
does it end there?
Remember, Latiff, Senate at that time sits as a high court.
Yes.
Meaning, it's actually like it's a trial chamber. National Assembly is the mention chamber. So we are mentioning this case, we are presenting prima facie, this is a case of, although they also ought to have interrogated and say, okay, do these charges actually make sense? Yeah. Does it meet the threshold? For example, when you say a man has stolen 5.2 billion. Now, and there is reason to believe that he may have committed a crime under national or international law. But is there, for example, a report even to the DCI that actually a crime has been committed? There has to be some concatenation of events that leads to you concluding that actually a crime has been committed, either nationally or internationally. Now, there was absence of all that. So the reason we are betraying the spirit, even the letter, by the way, and the spirit of our constitution, is that we have got a very lackluster, fakeless parliament leadership that actually does not at all interrogate anything.
Okay.
They and also we have heard, again, this is Kenya, Latiff, as you know. We have also heard that they were paid to just sign that petition. And, this is not rocket science. Well,
Kenya's parliament.
No, you see Latiff, I don't know, Latiff, you may shake your head, but the same way Mutuse said to Kenyans and parliament, believe me in what I'm saying. So you must also believe me that parliamentarians were paid.
If we follow just the legal argument you put across and strengthen the need for evidence, is there evidence that they were given money?
Well, is there evidence? Is there evidence that he was undermining?
Yes, and you're a lawyer.
Yes, I am a lawyer.
Yes.
I'm a lawyer, and I do a lot of litigation these days. So I cannot go to court if I cannot substantiate.
No. But by the way, I have also heard the rumors that many of them had not seen the motion before they signed those things. But could I come back to a question you asked, if you don't mind, which was, did they do what was expected of them to do? And the question I think that's critical is, what exactly was expected of them to do?
And by whom, really?
Because I think what one of the challenges we have two challenges. Right now it's very raw. There's a lot of raw politics. There are people who are pained now, rightfully so, because of what they see as clear injustice.
Yeah.
And we have, as Daktari said, a parliament that does not give a lot of confidence because of just who this 13th parliament has been. So, and then we have a country that is very, because of the wonderful work done by lawyers in the country, especially in terms of fighting for rights, or in this constitution. We have a country that is very well used to the court process, the requirements for very high bars under the court process. So these things, in my opinion, color our expectation of what was going to happen in Parliament. Look, Parliament is made up of politicians, not renowned jurists. Number two, the main currency in Parliament is politics. True, politics and law have a lot of relationships. In fact, they say law is the son or daughter of politics, because Parliament is where those laws are made. But think about it this way: there are crimes that were charged yesterday, and one or two of them was actually upheld. Is anybody going to be fined? No. Is anybody going to prison? No. Will anybody go out later and say, I can't be tried for this case because I have already been tried in another? No. So these are different systems. So unfortunately, we are holding the standard of one system, which is a very high standard, our court process, to another system which is a different system. Was there a ruling or a judgment delivered yesterday? No, it was a vote. So if today you wanted the judgment of yesterday's case, there's no judgment. It's just people voted, and in the old days, it was actually by acclamation, unless somebody asked for a division. So I think the key thing, and let me again try and confirm. Look, we have a lot of politics involved. We have a lot of unfair action going on. But if we were to look at the design of our constitution, and our constitution is not designed specifically for this particular moment in terms of the deputy president or a president or a governor, it is supposed to be for posterity. So think about it this way. 20 years down the line, if you had a president who was obviously unfit to run in terms of and you had a very good parliament, not the 13th parliament, you had a very good parliament. And that parliament did everything by the book.
They rightfully impeached that president.
Rightfully impeached that president. And then that president went to their local court in their county to one judge and got that stopped. Now you have a president who has been impeached, who is in office, and not the deputy president, and not impeached and out, but actually in office. You have a very unstable political system.
But
set up. Yes. And then it will go through, the entire process. So let me remind you something. In I think 1997, I think it was 1997, when Matiba challenged Moi in an election petition, he was told,
serve him in person.
What did that lead to? Changing the requirement that we are not going to use process to defeat a substance. And Prof knows very well, the Constitution has simplified the requirements for a lot of process. Most lawyers almost all lawyers will agree that even if they think the court should get involved, the court should not sit as an appellate court over what was done, or actually as even the trial court of what was done. The court should look at the constitutionality of the process, the fairness of the process, ABCD. So most lawyers look at it from an interference to check the process.
Okay.
Now, if we were to use process from the High Court all the way to the Supreme Court to deny the country a very critical tool of accountability, because the current parliament is unpopular, or because the current parliament, Mheshimiwa, has done a bad job in prosecuting this case, we are doing injustice to our constitutional setup.
Okay, and for me, continue that. Hold on, Daktari. Let's take a break. It's 20 minutes to 8. This conversation continues. We're here. We will be here into the next hour as well. We are seeking to understand the spirit and the letter of the Constitution on the matter of impeaching a president or a deputy president. So we've seen the deputy president has been impeached by the Senate, and it has already been gazetted. The Gazette notice is out. The Speaker of the Senate has already published it. It's out. Okay? So what's the spirit and the letter of the Constitution? The two gentlemen sitting with us today understand this Constitution very, very, very well because they wrote it. Abdulkadir Mohammed was in Parliament in it was 10th Parliament. Okay, remind me, it's 10th, huh?
10th Parliament.
A long time ago. In the 10th Parliament, when he was basically chairing the midwife team that midwifed the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And Dr. Okoh was the CEO of the committee of experts that actually drafted the Constitution that we have today. That's why they're here. Keep it here for more.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Looking at the weather and how it looks like today, it's partly sunny in Nairobi, currently 16, highs of 26 later. Let's go straight to Nyeri, and of course we know why we are in Nyeri. Nyeri is partly sunny today, it's 16, it'll be highs of 25. In Nakuru, sunny at 16, highs of 25. Mombasa, sunny at 26, highs of 31. Kilifi, Malindi, sunny at 27, highs of 30. Eldoret, 14 and sunny, highs of 22. Johannesburg, 14 and sunny, highs of 27. Kampala, cloudy at 20, highs of 28. 25 and cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 30. Clear skies in Lagos at 23, highs of 30. Mogadishu, sunny morning at 28, highs of 31. Addis Ababa, mostly sunny at 14, highs of 21. Dar es Salaam, cloudy at 24, highs of 30. Paris, cloudy at 13, highs of 16. Cloudy in London at 11, highs of 17. Cloudy in Beijing at 18. This is the highest it's going to be. From this point on, the temperatures start dropping in Beijing. They'll go to a low of 6. Highs in clear skies in New York tonight, highs of 19. The roads still look the same as you're heading towards town. It's actually a very good Friday. I think people have started a long holiday and people have given themselves Rigiji Day. So after that Gazette notice on the impeachment of the Deputy President, there are some people who appear to have decided to take a public holiday. Higher. So coming towards town from Westlands on Waiyaki Way, you will find some traffic on at the junction with the Brookside Grove, but then you'll find a lot of traffic as you approach then Ring Road Parklands. If you're looking at Mombasa Road into town, you will find traffic. There's traffic along State House Road. So this morning, by the way, just avoid using State House Road. Because State House Road and the junction with the Dennis Preet Road, you will find traffic. Why? You know why. It's because, of course, that there is now heightened security around State House. From all gates around State House, you'll find GSU officers stationed outside and they're controlling how vehicles are moving. So avoid State House Road altogether. Mombasa Road into town has been busy, and you'll find it busy from Nyayo Stadium into Uhuru Highway, on Bunyala Road, and then into the Railways Bridge. How is it looking like on North Airport Road? Not bad. How's it looking like on Thika Superhighway? It's actually not looking so bad this morning, because it's only stretching as far as Utalii Hotel coming towards town, and Kiambu Road is just from Wamboi Road heading towards the Muthaiga interchange.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
7:45, our conversation continues with Senior Counsel Abdulkadir Mohammed, who was the first chair of the committee oversighting the implementation of the Constitution after its promulgation in 2010, and Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who's also a constitutional lawyer. He was the CEO of the committee of experts that wrote Kenya's constitution, and has been involved in drafting several other constitutions across the continent, where Liberia, South Sudan, you are in the Maghreb after the Arab Spring, and so on and so forth. Now, we are looking at that matter, and Abdulkadir has brought in a serious issue here, that the spirit of the Constitution here was that the impeachment process is a political process. It's a process to oversight the executive. It's a political way of oversighting the political heads of the executive, right? If they misbehave, then the people's representative through the National Assembly and the Senate shall take action, right? And there are several safeguards. The high threshold. 1/3 of members of parliament have got to okay a motion to be brought into the House. 2/3 of members of parliament have got to say, yes, there's ground to impeach. 2/3 of the members of the Senate have members of the, not even delegations, this one. It is all members of the Senate. 2/3 of them have got to say, yes, there's any of these grounds is strong enough to meet the threshold, constitutionally set threshold for impeachment. It's a political process. The question comes, though, when you have a rogue parliament, like you both gentlemen have said, you have a parliament that does not know head or tail, cannot tell its feet from its toes, right? So a parliament then that doesn't do the job as expected of them to do. Don't you think then the person being accused deserves an opportunity to have someone else to check?
Absolutely. You
and
see,
we have the judiciary for that.
Yeah. So Latiff, politics does not take away the legality or the constitutionality aspect of it. And that's why, in the constitution making process or in the constitution itself, articles, there are many articles, the Bill of Rights, for example, in Article 50 talked about fairness. If you are going to try somebody, it's not the politics, because we know our politics is completely messed up. It is tribal, it's regional, it's balkanization. The very, very charges that Rigathi Gachagua was charged of, that of ethnic mobilization or whatever. In fact, if you are to remove the name Gachagua from that charge sheet and replace it, say, with Ruto, the list will probably be longer. Or replace it with any of the politicians, the list will be longer, especially those from rural constituencies. Because for them, the mobilization is around tribe. And there's nothing absolutely wrong with identifying with members of your community or your ethnic group. I think the problem is when you make it negative. Now, if you're going to try somebody because of that, and if you look at the character and nature of our politics in Kenya, it's very tribal. There's nothing criminal about that per se. Okay? Only when you're mobilizing the tribe against another group or tribe, then it becomes criminal. But just to identify that I come from this region, like for me, you can't take away the fact that I'm a Turkana. But I'm proudly Kenyan, but of Turkana extraction. Just like you cannot take away the fact that Abdulkadir is Somali, or Ziti here is Luo.
On a light touch, there was a rumor when we had hired when the parliament said Daktari should be the CEO. There was a rumor, and it's never been confirmed, that former President Moi was told this and said, "What? Katiba to be written by a Turkana?"
No, it was not a rumor. No, he said it actually. He said it. What Katiba can be written by a Turkana? That's no, seriously. He said it. He said it. I mean, let's not talk about the dead. But actually, he did say it. That's exactly how.
We had a good laugh about it.
Yes. In this country, people do not look at, for example, your competencies.
So what you're calling, maybe our rotten politics, is the reality of our politics.
It is the reality of our politics. And that's why, for me, you cannot lock away the opportunity of a person who has been lynched politically, as in the case of Gachagua. And I'm not holding his brief. The truth for the matter is Gachagua was lynched politically. We don't even know what went wrong between him and in fact, if you are really to compare this presidency and the previous presidency, it makes Uhuru an angel. Because if there is one person, I think, who even disrespected openly is president. It was actually now President William Ruto, when he was deputy to Uhuru Kenyatta. But Uhuru Kenyatta, in his magnanimity, probably out of respect for the presidency, did not want to move in an impeachment.
Or maybe he didn't have the numbers.
Well, he had the numbers. He could have marshaled the same way Ruto has marshaled. But I think if you are really to compare, the two presidencies, I think it really has exposed the underbelly of Ruto as a very bad person.
So then, in your argument, Dr. Okoh, if then you have the judiciary and you say that this also can end up in the judiciary, in what stage, at what stage, and in what shape and form? Because this is like what Abdulkadir is saying. If we were to look at it, from that angle, then it would be about the process. The process being followed. Was the process duly followed? What do you think? What do you say? Where is the judiciary?
At the end of the day, Latiff, you have put me on trial. You have charged me. You have trumped up charges. Some of them, all of them almost unsubstantiated. Even from the key witness himself, as you saw. He looked very silly. He was like, you wondered, where did he stumble upon his elementary law, honestly, even as a lawyer? And so I think the question really is, if you must put somebody on trial, follow the rigors of the law. Follow the Evidence Act. Follow treat him.
Is that what you guys expected Parliament to be doing?
Well,
it's like you expected Parliament to understand the law. You cannot guarantee that Parliament will then have lawyers as members.
You can't say
who will think about it. If you wanted that, Dr. Okoh, why take impeachment through Parliament? Why not just say establish a commission, a special tribunal that will be judicial, that then will look at it that way?
Let me tell you why Rigathi Gachagua was politically lynched. If you look at the process of impeachment, ideally, there ought to be, the language in the constitution is there may be a select committee of about 11 members who will then go and interrogate these charges, return a report. And that could have been, for me, a more elegant way. And I'm juxtaposing that to the importance of this office of the presidency. Because remember, as we said earlier, this is a president in waiting. It's not just anybody. It's not just any politician. This is a person today, if the president collapses, actually will take over the reins of power and actually be the CEO of this country. So we ought to have attached, we're going back to the question of the spirit. What would have been the best way to go about this? Not to make the Senate a committee to impeach Gachagua, because you needed to have attached importance. If you remove this person, what are the possible consequences? Because he is charged of being a tribalist. But today, I think the mountain is more united now, more than ever. The mountain is very much united, whatever you want to call it. But I think for me, wisdom ought to have reigned on the speaker, on the senators, to say, let's tread very carefully on this issue because of the implications. At least let's give an opportunity to a select committee to interrogate these charges, return to us their verdict.
You should have put that in the constitution.
It is there. It is there.
Not as optional.
No. It is there.
You should have made it the requirement.
So maybe, Eric, and I agree with most of what Dr. said in terms of either this particular trial or the challenges. But I think the question you asked is very critical. Look, ultimately, this is a political forum, and we had the choice to say in the Constitution, when we were making the Constitution, once there is an allegation for an impeachable offense, remove this and take it to an independent. Just like the article before this one deals with a tribunal set up for incapacity. And the one before that deals with an election petition at the highest court in our country.
Yes.
In this particular instance, the Constitution has given this to the Parliament. So, for example, as I said, lawyers in this country naturally gravitate towards the courts and a court process. But ask yourself, if tomorrow Daktari or one of the lawyers in his office, now there's no impeachment process in the concerning, for example, a minister in the National Assembly or in the Senate, and then they decided this particular minister is not fit for office, I am going to impeach him, and they draft a very beautiful case and go before the High Court and say, Mr. Judge, I am moving your court because I want to impeach Minister Eric Latiff, because he's unfit. And I have lined up all the witnesses, and I have lined up all the evidence, and assuming just in that case that we all look at the evidence and it's perfect,
right,
and we all get the best witnesses,
right,
would the court say, I agree with you and impeach? No. The court will say, my friend, this is not the home of impeachment. We have no powers to do impeachment here. Go to Parliament. Where if you have other issues, let me just, if you have other issues, let's see, but impeachment, go to Parliament. The second is Parliament is a very powerful institution. Or the executive, for example. Supposing there is an election petition of a ward rep going on somewhere in a magistrate's court, and Parliament decides, we don't like the way that is being handled. We will handle it at supermajority levels in the House and the Senate. So we'll take part in that function. Most people would laugh Parliament out of. So the point I make is these are different systems. So most lawyers understand we have something called an adversarial system. Our criminal or civil law process in courts is adversarial. In other words, it relies on Daktari representing one person, I representing the other person, and you, Eric, being an arbiter who is not party to this process, listening. And that we will be very adversarial against each other.
As opposed to?
As opposed to, say, inquisitorial, which is what either the French or the Islamic law has, which is that the court actually goes out of its way to look for the truth. In our system, our courts don't look for the truth. The judge could very well know that this is actually not right, but if you have not pleaded it, if the person who is starting this case has not said, I want ABCD, the judge can go out of this and grant you those things. So imagine now how that would look to somebody from the inquisitorial side. They'll say, how can that be? This is a court. It's supposed to give justice. And here you are saying the English setup is, no. You cannot go. And the lawyers in this country will be very comfortable in saying that you have not pleaded this, so we cannot answer that question. Or I am the judge, I can't ask this question. So this is now a different system, and it's a different forum. And unfortunately or fortunately, irrespective of how painful the current setup in our parliament is, or the current political temperatures are, and I agree with us, with many people who say our current parliament is the worst parliament probably we have ever had. Even the 1988 Mulolongo product. But the reality is our constitutional. Yes, sir.
Council, are the two of you suggesting that these processes that we have just witnessed were either a gross illegality or completely unconstitutional?
No, not really.
No. So the point I make is we might not be happy with our current parliament.
Yes.
But tomorrow, if that current parliament passes a law, we must abide by that law. And our current
we can reject it if it's a bad law.
You absolutely can reject it if it's a bad law.
Just like we rejected the finance
bill.
We
can challenge it.
But there you go. But the courts are given the power to strike down laws. The courts are not given powers to strike down impeachment, because impeachment is closed.
So what you are saying, the bottom line, hold on, Daktari, the bottom line of the Daktari, what you're saying is that the lesson from you in this class today is that we have two systems.
Yes.
We have a judicial way and we have a political way of removing a president in our constitution.
We have three systems.
We have three.
We have a medical way.
Okay. We have a God way.
Actually, we have 5. Obviously, you can resign. You can die.
Yes.
You can be incapacitated medically.
Okay.
In which we have another procedure, not the courts, not parliament, but a process that is under the constitution. We have an election petition, which is a court process. And we have a political process called impeachment.
And the
now,
political
unfortunately, the lawyers and because of the unpopularity of our politics and our politicians, the push is to remove this impeachment process from parliament and give it to the courts. And I'm saying that's unconstitutional.
And you're saying
that's not acceptable.
This one is purely political.
political.
So then I will ask the question, and you'll start with that in the next hour after the news.
Yeah.
So then why put such legal thresholds for political process?
Very good point.
CGO, constitution breach of
Very
constitution.
very good point.
It should have been, we don't just like this guy.
Very good,
and
very
you can
good,
marshal
very good
2/3.
Yeah, very good point. So Daktari will I'm sure have a lot to say about
let's
it.
do the news.
Okay.
You'll start on that. If really this is it's a purely political process,
Yes.
then why have such high legal thresholds? Why not just say,
actually
if
quasi-legal.
Parliament feels that this president or deputy president is so unpopular, and you can marshal a supermajority, just get the guy out of office, and you'll have the country behind you.
That's
8
exactly
a.m.
how it- That's exactly how it
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswam Dennis Aseto. The health condition of the impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is stable. Gachagua was admitted at Karen Hospital yesterday afternoon. He said to be recovering well, according to his doctor. Gachagua had complained of chest pains at around 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon, where he was rushed to hospital and underwent a medical checkup. Cardiologist at the hospital, Dan Gikonyo, said that Gachagua underwent various tests.
I can say he's quite stable. There are the routines that we do. Every doctor knows the type of things we do when somebody is suspected of some heart trouble. There are some standards of blood tests, ECGs, echoes that we do, and some standard medications of aspirin and cholesterol medicine that we give as we observe. If you come with chest pain in any hospital in this country or in the world, you will be held captive for at least 24, 72 hours to rule out serious issues. I'm sure you guys read a lot. Stress can cause heart problems, we know that, and the DP is definitely a lot of stress. I'm sure you heard about something called Takotsubo syndrome, the broken heart syndrome, all those things that can cause severe heart problems. So all those are possibilities.
Gachagua fell ill before taking the stand to defend himself at the Senate. Now, the impeachment of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua continues to evoke mixed feelings among Kenyans, with Mombasa residents voicing their opinions. Let's listen in.
Si vibaya vile vyaamua, lakini sasa na huyu mwingine mtafanya nini huyu Ruto? Maana hao wote ndio wangeenda, ndio nafasi hapo ikipatikana. Sasa mwingine aende, mwingine abaki pale, na wao wote ni watu wanajuana. Sasa kwa hivyo itakuwa bado hawajafanya kitu hapo. Sheria wangeondoa watu wawili hapo, Ruto na huyu Gachagua, waende zao nyumbani, waache nafasi pale. Maana wote wangeondoka, ilikuwa ni sawa, watu wangejipanga. Tufanye nini? Kwa sababu hao watu hawapo.
Nataka Matakarua mimi, mtu ngangari yule. Matakarua ndo nataka Ruto amchukue. Matakarua unajua ndo mtu mmoja ngangara. Sasa na Kalonzo Matakarua aje kwa Ruto huko. Tumpe makamu wa rais. Naona bwana Gachagua acha aende na milima yake. Matakarua ni mtu iko straight forward. Akiamua ni wewe ni wewe. Unaona alivyosema na Kibaki bwana. Wakenya walipelekana huku na huku, Matakarua Kibaki na mpaka kakaa Kibaki. Haki imetendeka. Hataki ukabila Kenya bwana. Hataki ukabila. Na hii ni funzo kwa mtu mwingine yoyote mwenye cheo kama kile kuleta mambo ya ukabila. Tunataka Wakenya tunaishi sote Wakenya. Mambo ya ukabila hapa nitaka. Mwenye ukabila aende kwao na ukabila wake. Gachagua acha akae kwa mlima yake huko.
The views of Kenyans from Mombasa. Now, 20,000 teachers will be hired in January next year. President William Ruto said these will address the current shortage.
We must give every opportunity, the best opportunity that we have to our children. It is the reason why, again in January, we will be hiring another 20,000 teachers. And I talk this listening to our children because I'm a father of 7 myself. I work hard in every field, that's it. And it is something that we must do for our children.
Now, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has said that the government is working on evacuating more than 7,000 Kenyans stuck in Lebanon by sea due to hiccups faced in evacuating them by air. Speaking when he appeared before the National Assembly's Committee on Defence and Foreign Relations, Mudavadi revealed that the evacuation exercise by air had been slowed by high demand in the war-torn country. Mudavadi said the government was still evacuating Kenyans from the foreign nation even as fighting continues between Israel and Hezbollah. He assured the country that the government was monitoring the situation in the Middle East and was committed to protecting Kenyans caught up in the conflict. And High Court Judge Bahati Mwamuye was forced to adjourn the virtual hearings in a case challenging the JKIA takeover by India's Adani Group. This came after a rowdy group of people stormed the session chanting, "Adani must go, JKIA is not for sale." Now, Justice Mwamuye was to issue directions in the case in which journalist Tony Gashoka and Mount Kenya jurists are challenging the proposed takeover of the airport by the Indian firm. The petitioners argue that the whole process regarding the deal is tainted with illegalities, noting that it was never subjected to mandatory public participation, yet it involves a strategic national asset. This is News. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
There's something happening on Mombasa Road as you approach City Cabanas. All right. So coming all the way from Mulolongo, you get into the airport junction. You will find a lot of traffic into City Cabanas that will stretch just beyond the City Cabanas into the entrance into the expressway. After the entrance into the expressway, the traffic clears. So you'll not find traffic thereafter. You'll not even find traffic at Imara Daima. You'll not find traffic at that thing that Kenha calls the interchange at General Motors. So it'll be moving. But whatever is happening there, let's find out. If you know, just alert us so we can tell. That is affecting North Airport Road badly, because North Airport Road traffic stretches all the way into Embakasi, all the way into Eastern Bypass, into just the military barracks. So it starts from the military barracks on Eastern Bypass, the entirety of North Airport Road, and into the entirety of City Cabanas interchange, up to the entrance into the expressway. What's going on there? Let us know. Now, Mombasa Road thereafter clears. Thika Superhighway is okay, because this morning is actually not as bad as normally it is. And also, Kiambu Road is not looking bad at all. Langata Road is not so bad. Ngong Road is not bad. Wayaki Way into town, not bad.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes to 8, after 8 rather. Thank you very much for keeping it locked. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the Situation Room. Our guests are still here for the next 1 hour. Senior Counsel Abdulkadir Mohammed, who was the first chair of the Parliamentary Committee for the Implementation
Oversight.
The committee.
CIOC.
The Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee of the National Assembly then. And before that, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitution Review that vetted and approved the appointment of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. The CEO of that Committee of Experts on Constitution Review is Dr. Ekuru Aukot. Interviewed.
Hired.
Hired, basically.
That's true.
I thought it was the National Assembly that hired.
That's true.
Okay. So the chair, the then CEO of the Committee of Experts, Dr. Ekuru Aukot, is also here with us. He is our guest. Now, remember the gentleman, the way we've said, the Elkan University Hospital, if you're thinking about it. So they have very many branches. There are 53 specialist clinics across the country. They've got the main one in Nairobi, the main one in Mombasa, the main one in Kisumu, right? And then all these specialist clinics. And beyond that, there is the home-based care, where they say you don't have to keep coming back to visit the doctari when you're going through treatment. The doctari can come to you, can send physiotherapists to you if there's physiotherapy that you need, can send a nurse to you if it's just, wound care and treatment that you're dealing with, can send lab to you if it's just coming to take samples so we can see how you're doing. And then those results will be sent to you. And the doctari himself or herself will come visit you for those visits to come and check how you're doing and how you're faring. You don't have to think about constantly going to hospital throughout your treatment. Home-based care by the Aga Khan University. City, remind the country. No, remind the world. This week, the proverbs have been from the People's Democratic Republic
of Algeria. Yes. And today's proverb is a fairly straightforward one.
The absent
always has a justification.
The absent always has a justification.
Yes.
All right. Senior Counsel Paul Moita, where is your client? Mr. Speaker, I also don't know. I'm trying to trace my client. The absent always has a justification.
Yes.
After 5 p.m., my client has been taken ill. Is in hospital. The absent always has a justification. Let's head back into this issue.
Yeah.
We have two very, very strong schools of thought here. And the reason why we invited you gentlemen is to look at the spirit, because you were there when the Constitution was being drafted and it was being discussed. So the spirit of the Constitution and the letter that we see in the Constitution today. Senior Counsel Abdulkadir Mohammed says, the spirit of the Constitution is that impeachment is a political process and it should be left there. Political process, it ends there. You, Dr. Ekuru Okoh, you say, the spirit and the letter of the Constitution are merging here because the spirit of the Constitution in totality is everybody deserves justice, a right to be heard, and they deserve some arbitration and fairness. And therefore, even this political process should still be subjected to a judicial process.
So, for me, I think the best way to describe it is to call it a legal political process. Okay? It's a legal political process because at the time of making any constitution in the country, in any country, it's a political process. But the moment you pen it down and now becomes the highest law in the land, that's why we call it the highest law in the land. The constitution is the highest law. So that even when you read Article 2, for example, any law or any rule or that is inconsistent with the constitution is null and void from the very beginning. So once it's now concretized to become that law, the social contract, as we call it, then it becomes the highest law in the land. Any law that contradicts, so anything that you do that contradicts that constitution, then is a nullity. And that's why, yes, you can try Gachagua from your political perspective, but try him within the rigors of the law. That because you are applying the law, you are saying, I've accused this man of undermining the president. Where is the evidence? Then you are going into the Evidence Act that's passed by the same parliament. You know, if you are saying that he is undermining devolution, give us the evidence. And that is a matter of legality. Now, you cannot only just say that the political process closes an avenue for somebody to seek legal intervention. It does not. Because the same way you challenge a political process by way of, election petitions. Election petitions is a consequence of political process. But we end up in court because to say you stuffed the ballots, you stole the ballots, there was this and that, So it is not watertight that, the process of impeachment actually ends up at the Senate itself. Because if the trial was shambolic, as we saw, if the mover of the motion himself could not even substantiate his claims, then there has to be recourse to me, because otherwise then what are we ushering in if we say let everything just be political, especially since we have already established the character and nature of our politics in Kenya is so shady. It has been commercialized, it's manipulation. You have members of parliament who admitted that they were paid to sign this thing on the promise that one of their own will be the deputy president. Now, really, that is politics. But does it take away the legality of it? It does not. And so that's my point number one. The second point I want to make, Latiff, is this. There is a misinterpretation on the time frame for the impeachment of the deputy president when the Senate sat. Now, there is going back to the question you're pushing, the spirit of it. What would have been the spirit of actually impeaching this man? Taking into account the importance of this office as I've already established. Right from when President William Ruto sat down and said, who can actually be my deputy? So he does a careful interrogation and selection of the people around him.
2 days of drama in Karen.
And whatever.
It's Rigiji.
And then I said, it's Rigiji. Why Rigiji? Because he attaches importance to that person who is going to deputize him. But we also know it's because he believed that he will bring a block vote from now the Murima that has been shaken. I think has been moved. Not ijaguzo lakini imesongeshwa kidogo. So that is the importance. So now, when you are going to impeach this person by dint of Article 145, sub-article 5, so you are saying that initially, senators ought to be wiser people and say, I think let's not rush this matter because Kenya is not in a state of emergency. It's not like Kenya will collapse if we don't impeach Gachagua. So what we have done, wisdom ought to have reigned on the members of the Senate and even members of Parliament to have begin. First of all, they should have interrogated this allegation. But now that we have moved to the Senate would have said, listen, I think let's be very careful on our actions. Can we subject this to a committee of the Senate, the 11-member committee of Senate, who constitutionally have got 10 days that were supposed to have lapsed by the time the charges were read, lapsed on Saturday. Now, the misinterpretation I'm seeing is that when the Senate now took over this matter, instead of putting a committee, they gave themselves the 11 days, which is not.
Let me read the Constitution. Article 145.
Article 5.
Let me start with 3. Within 7 days after receiving notice of a resolution from the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate shall convene a meeting of the Senate to hear charges against the President. What does that mean? That from the moment Speaker Moses Wetangula notified Speaker Amason Kingi of the decision of the National Assembly, Amason Kingi had 7 days to notify the members of the Senate.
First of all, Wetangula has 2 days to notify.
Okay.
He must notify within 2 days of the decision of the National Assembly.
Yes.
And then 7 days.
And then 7 days within which to convene a meeting of the Senate to hear the charges. The Senate by resolution may appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter.
Yes.
4. A special committee appointed under Clause 3B, the one I've just read, shall investigate the matter and report to the Senate within 10 days whether it finds the particulars of the allegations against the President to have been substantiated. The President, here, the Deputy President, shall have the right to appear and be represented before the special committee during its investigations. If the special committee reports that the particulars of any allegation against the President have been substantiated, further proceedings shall not be taken, have not been substantiated, further proceedings that shall not be taken. If the special committee finds that they've been substantiated, the Senate shall, after according the President and the Deputy President the opportunity to be heard on the impeachment charges, vote 2/3, blah, 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 out. So here, it's the issue of the days start coming in because it appears after the Constitution introduces the special committee, it goes on further with as if it's a special committee that's sitting. It doesn't tell us if the Senate does not resolve to appoint a special committee, do these days apply or do they not?
It's not clear. And I think that's where now your question comes in. What then ought to be the spirit? If the letter is not clear, I mean, in constitution making, we always have the letter and the spirit of the law. If the letter is not clear, then we go to the spirit. And now the spirit now takes us to the importance, the fundamentals about these offices. The way in which you see the Rigathi Gachagua impeachment was rushed, you can actually see the choreography. The idea was remove this man by whatever means possible. And that's why the calendar of Parliament has even been changed today to sit today on what they call priority, I think priority basis. A priority sitting.
There's a recess coming up, and there's a lot
of No. You see, Eric, I hope you're not bidding for the National Assembly. But listen, when we had a disaster, the flood disaster in this country, our parliament never convened to talk about how do we manage the disaster management in this country.
Yeah.
We saw homes were being swept, people were dying.
Yep.
Parliament never sat in its wisdom.
Yeah.
But now, in their wisdom or lack of it, in the impeachment of Gachagua, let's change our calendar. We sit on a Friday, and
two sessions.
In fact, I wish our parliament was so diligent, so hardworking, like the way we saw it in the last couple of days, to actually address the problems of this country.
I get you. Back to the spirit. In the spirit here, if the constitution says that the Senate may by resolution appoint a special committee comprising of 11 members, and then thereafter we go into, then the committee shall sit, the committee shall have this number of days, and then the committee shall present its report, and then the Senate shall consider. Right? In the absence of this committee, it's not clear then what happens. Can we say then the spirit is that if the Senate does not appoint a special committee, it resolves to be a committee of the whole House, then the same still applies?
Well, it's an arguable case. But for me, if you look at talking about of the spirit, what would have been the best way for us as a country to actually handle these allegations against the deputy president, the second in command in our country? I think the spirit for me is not to rush it the way they have done it. The spirit for me is not to go ahead and vote, looking at, for example, the person who petitioned it, looking so miserable, cannot even answer his questions, straightforward questions, So I think for me, there we lost the spirit of the Constitution. We lost the spirit of why we constitutionalized this office, why we said, let there be one ticket of a president and his running mate. We lost that spirit. And what is worrying me most, CT, is that this impeachment of Gachagua has actually set a very poor benchmark on impeachment. It has actually entrenched a very low threshold. I'm hoping now going forward, we are going to have an avalanche of impeachments based on this nature of because this is now the president. Today I can wake up.
City keeps saying they have set in motion something they may not.
And that's not bad, by the way.
Right?
That's not bad.
Abdi, but today I can wake up, Abdi. Wait, give me a second. Today I can wake up and say I don't like Abdi. I just concoct some charges, whether substantial or not. Is that really how we want to govern our country?
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I like what they have done, but if we can impeach, so put it this way: if we were to use that standard, majority of high office holders will be impeached.
Yeah.
And we all agree that the majority of our high office holders actually should be impeached. So the fact that standard is been, the eyes of the country have been opened to that accountability process, in my opinion, is not a bad thing.
Everything you're saying is theoretical.
Yes.
What we should have, what we ought to have. But when you say it's what we would like to have, I disagree. Because what we are seeing is what we prefer to have. If we haven't challenged the politicization of everything, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and the politicization of it is what has taken center stage. It is what we have accepted. I am looking at everything that we have done with regards to understanding the Constitution and the constitutionality of what this whole process is supposed to be.
And
the options exist, but what do we choose time and time again?
And you're so right. I think that's really the point. The point is our processes from the get-go have been very poor and very politicized, and even the basis of our politics has been colored by a lot of things that are not good. Now, for example, members of our parliament, we all agree, are not the best products. How did they come about? They didn't fall from the air. We voted for them.
And they're Kenyans.
And how did we vote for them? Probably because some paid some people, some were because of ethnic backgrounds or regional backgrounds or a lot of other things. If we were to inquire the way we are inquiring very critically, and it's an important inquiry as to what the coloring of the decision by the Houses of Parliament were yesterday, if we were to follow that to its logical conclusion, the problem is not the impeachment issues. The problem is that the constitutional process from the get-go. So Daktari stood for election as president of this republic.
Yes.
How many people decided to vote or not vote for him based on the qualities that are required, the good qualities of a president? Very few.
Actually, they even said to me, but you're Turkana.
Yeah.
How many are you?
There you go. Thank you very much. So if we were to go, absolutely. So if we were to go to the
and they also say, do you have money?
There you go. So if our politics is based on that, then we can't come to Parliament and say, how come you're politicizing this issue? This is the product we have come with. Now, I think if there's one lesson to be learned from this, it is that in the next general election, we should elect our members of parliament using the parameters of the Katiba, which is that who is fit for purpose, who is the best person for this, not who comes from my community, who comes from my region, who has
who's aligned
nicely,
with my tribe
who look nice.
Councillor, you know, someone in whom I hold in such high regard as yourself, I would not want to disagree with you, but I have to. I honestly...
Please do.
I really honestly don't want to disagree with you.
Please do.
And I'm not disagreeing with you because of that what you're saying is actually not desired or it is not true.
Yes.
What you say is what is desired and what is true.
Yes.
In the absence of the citizens of this country understanding their role in holding their leaders accountable, it does not matter whom we elect.
Okay.
We have a tendency in this country that the moment people enter political office, they become rotten before they are ripe.
I again, let me say, for somebody who I hold in high regard, I will disagree with you. Because I honestly believe that we have very many good people in this country. Many good people in this country. And I honestly believe people are generally good. So, for example, our biggest problem as a country is graft, right? Corruption, right?
No, it is not. That is a symptom of our problem. Our problem is impunity.
Impunity is as a result of corruption. But anyway, let's speak about corruption. It's a big problem. Let's not say our biggest, let's say it's a big problem.
It's a big problem.
Now, that big problem, almost all banks in this country, literally every branch of a bank in this country has a vault. And 100% of the people who work in those banks are Kenyans. And majority of the people who hold the keys to those vaults are young Kenyans. And they deal in huge mountain loads of cash. And 80-90% of the time, their salary might be 50K and they're holding 50 million and they don't steal 10 shillings. And it's not just one bank. It is one bank after the other. Now, you go to hospital and the people who care for you are nurses. And they don't come from your community. And they earn very little. And they are up in the wee hours of the night, cleaning your stuff and all these things. Look, we have very many professionals. We have very many good people. Unfortunately, as a country, we don't give the right people the right jobs. So one of the problems I have with the current administration is that it is as if the current administration has been told, look for the worst person for any job and hire them. Now, seriously, because the opportunity, even if you wanted somebody
you have
loyal.
To be deplorable to be
even if you wanted somebody loyal, there are so many people who can be loyal and are appropriate and fit for that job. So as a country, we are blessed with very many good people who are very highly educated. Look, one of the things the 10th Parliament did was to remove the hiring process from the executive and hire for the commissions. And one of the things that used to surprise us nicely was the number of people who are so highly qualified for any particular job. Now, with a country that is that blessed with good people, how do you have the most mediocre people holding the most important posts? And that is where our problem is. You can't have that and then say
my respect
on this
for
particular.
you has gone a notch higher. Because you have put forward a very compelling argument for this.
But then I think Abdi is raising even a more fundamental question. So Abdi, then you're raising a very fundamental question. Then what is really the leader? I mean, just like Eric, you interrogate this issue of the letter and the spirit, and I'll come to that very briefly. But I think the question you are raising, Abdi, is very, very fundamental. That it is a leadership question. Can we say today that actually we have a leadership? Because, like they say, fish rots from the head. So if really, I see leadership as a value. It must cascade downwards. If from the very top, like you say, the people who are holding high public offices are actually rotten to the core, then what do you expect down there? If we see corruption in billions and millions of money being stolen at the very top, why do you blame a cop who just takes 50 bob, 100 bob, yet his salary is maybe 20,000, 30,000? We are not justifying this bad. And by the way, I think we should stop using the word corruption, because I don't think in Kisomali or even in Luo
there is no corruption.
There is no word corruption. But if you call somebody a thief, we have given you money to go and build a hospital, and we don't see the hospital, and the money has disappeared. You have stolen. So let's just call it theft, because that's the best way to describe it.
Plunder.
But Eric, to the topic of the day, the letter and the spirit, there are two words we need to distinguish here, and I think we have used it. We have used the word constitutionality, basically the presence of laws, the passage of laws. But what we miss is constitutionalism,
the culture.
The culture, the living that spirit now. When the letter is not clear, what can we lean to? Did we, for example, just want the fact that the constitution says by due time, let's impeach, but going by how do we want to be seen? Do we believe in our own constitution? Can we modify it in such a way that let's not rush this process? Kenya is not in a crisis. We are not at war with another person. Can we preserve the spirit of the constitution? At least let's leave that culture. And I think that's where the problem lies in this country, because then you have got very mediocre people like Abdi. I mean, I'm just quoting Abdikadi, not my word. Very mediocre people in positions of currently.
I stand by.
currently, yeah, and and you see, they have no shame on me. They don't apologize at all. So today, I mean, I don't want to mention names, but today the face of leadership in Kenya is some nondescript characters who actually dictate.
We're in a country where people can actually discuss. This person has stolen 5.2 billion shillings in 2 years, and we treat it as casually as
or we extradite the guy of Triton all the way from England only for us to withdraw
to come and kill the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. Then what was DCI?
Actually, it makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense, because if you look at the process of investigation, so there's a complaint to the DCI. DCI investigates. They gather evidence. They send the file to DPP. DPP, have a look at this file. Do you think we can sustain this charge?
Yes.
DPP say, yes, we can charge that person.
Bring the guy.
Then the guy is charged. He is arraigned in court. Is put in prison. The next application here from DPP, we need time to investigate.
You see, you are rightfully thinking like the clear-minded lawyer that you are.
And a good-hearted Kenyan.
That you are, and an honest, loyal Kenyan that you are. We are not discussing legal matters here. We are discussing the influence of the political system and the politicization of everything that we do, and the poisoned well that our politics is. Because that's what you've just... All these things you're talking about, they are subjected to the law.
But Sidi,
yes, please.
Even politics must operate within the legal framework.
In this country, it doesn't. Because if there's anything that we have seen is how our politicians, it's like they look for an opportunity to disregard the law. President Uhuru set that thing in motion. He set it in motion. When you disregard a court order, what do you think you've set in motion? What do you think you've told everybody else in the country? That's what...
When police enforcers ignore summons,
yes. Yes.
Then you expect them to enforce a summon against another. Because today, if you are a chicken thief, you definitely be in industrial area or committee.
Yes.
But if you steal money, because you see, I think one of the most lucrative businesses in Kenya today is theft of public resources.
It has been for some time.
Yeah.
It didn't start yesterday.
That's why politics is the most lucrative job
Yes.
to look for.
Why
Let's
do
take a break.
Yes,
Let's take a break. It's 27 minutes to 9. Our guests this morning are constitution experts. They wrote this constitution that we have, and that's why we're discussing the spirit and the letter of the constitution.
And by then we are all nomads. Just so that, just to remind the Moi that even nomads can.
This is the depth the people from the farthest corner of this country wrote our constitution. From Mandera North.
From Turkana.
And from Turkana. The Turkana guy was the CEO of the Committee of Experts on
And the Mandera guy.
And the Mandera guy was in Parliament as the chair
So
of
you
the Select
can
Committee.
see what nomads actually can do for this country, given the opportunity.
Okay, when we come out of the break, we'll now look at so after the impeachment has happened, the process of appointing a new deputy president.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hii September, endelea kufurahia na Star Times. Renew your subscription today on the basic bouquet for 750 shillings for aerial decoders. Enjoy lots of fun and adventures on our kiddie channels. Let your favorite stars make your heart flutter on our world-class telenovelas. Renew your subscription on the Smart Bouquet for 1,199 shillings for satellite decoders for unmissable football action on the Carabao Cup, Saudi League, La Liga, and the Bundesliga. Music, movies, documentaries, and lifestyle channels. Download Star Times on app today on Google Play Store or the Apple Store to never miss a moment of your favorite shows. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny and warming up in Nairobi. It's currently 18. Expect highs of 25 later today. Expect highs of 27 in Kakamega. It's currently at 21. Expect highs of 31 in Malindi. You're not so far off. It's now 28. 31 as well in Mombasa. Now 27. 25 highs in Nakuru, currently at 18. Also the same temperature in 18 in Nyeri and highs of 26. In Eldoret, sunny at 15. Highs of 23. It's going to be a hot day in Dar es Salaam, highs of 31, currently at 26. 21 in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, highs of 21, it's currently at 17. Highs of 31 in Mogadishu, currently 29. Highs of 30 in Lagos, currently 23. Highs of 27 in Johannesburg, partly sunny. Highs at right now at 17. Highs of 30 in Kinshasa, currently at 25. Highs of 28 in Kampala, currently at 20. Highs of 20 later on in New York when they wake up. It's the coldest it's going to be tonight in New York. It's 9. It's already been very, very hot in Beijing. It was highs of 18 earlier. It's starting to cool off. It's now 17. It'll drop down to 6. It's warming up in Paris, highs of 16 later, currently at 13. And London is foggy at 11, highs of 17.
Spice up your life.
So the issue that was on Mombasa Road from the airport coming towards the City Cabanas, so this section of the road has cleared. But those who are using North Airport Road this morning, they're still having some trouble because it starts from Embakasi, and this is at the roundabout that joins Embakasi, Eastern Bypass into North Airport Road. It begins there, comes all the way into the Outer Ring Road interchange, past that, heading towards City Cabanas. It's very, very busy. It's now getting busy at the usual place on Mombasa Road, and this is Imaradaima, coming into that thing that Kenha calls an interchange under General Motors. Completely confused thing that causes traffic all at the time. And then there's a contractor who's decided he's going to dig up Mombasa Road. So they have, I don't know what they've done with Mombasa Road. So it slows down the traffic that is around this area of General Motors heading towards town. Now, you'll find no more traffic thereafter, even into Nyayo Stadium, into Bunyala Road. You'll be okay heading in towards town. Limuru Road is fine. Langata Road is fine. Gong Road is fine. Limuru Road was busier. It's getting busy now as you head into UN Avenue. So the Muthaiga Road junction of Limuru Road all the way to UN Avenue, very, very busy. Kiambu Road is all right. Thika Superhighway, traffic begins at Tutali coming towards town. From Westlands to town, it's not bad. James Sigei is fine. Wayakiwe Red Hill Link Road is fine. And Lower Kabete Road is also okay.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Experts, Senior Counsel Abdulkadir Mohammed and Dr. Okoh, both studied in the best schools from the University of Nairobi to Ukonje, including Harvard and where?
Warwick.
See, my friend.
PhD.
See Warwick. Sawa.
No, see Warwick. Warwick.
The Warwick. All the way, right? And helped to write constitutions for not just Kenya, but other countries in Africa. So now, the Constitution says vacancy in the office of the Deputy President, Article 149, within 14 days after a vacancy in the office of the Deputy President arises, the President shall nominate a person to fill the vacancy and the National Assembly shall vote on the nomination within 60 days after receiving it. Let's spend some time here. Okay. So first of all, what is the process of declaring a vacancy in the office of the Deputy President? Who does that?
Okay,
it's already been declared.
Yes. So
who does it?
So the moment the vote is called by the Speaker of the Senate, the Constitution says there is a vacancy. Then there is communication.
The Deputy President shall cease to hold office.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Then there's communication to obviously send that information to the President. And there's a gazettement process, which is basically instrumentalism to give notice.
It's already out, actually.
Which is already done. And then the nomination from the President for the replacement and the process of voting by Parliament. And again, if you look, Eric, at 152 on Cabinet, just read the appointment of Cabinet and how the Constitution deals with it.
Okay. So the Cabinet, first of all, how many members?
Yeah.
It's the President, the Deputy President, the Attorney General, not fewer than 14, not more than 22. Okay? Yeah. So a full Cabinet is 25. Yeah. The President shall nominate and with the approval of the National Assembly, appoint Cabinet Secretaries.
So that is the difference in the language between 149 and 152 and all the others that require approval.
Okay.
So this is early days in our constitutional development. It is constitutionalism that's getting developed. So if you are to go with the strict black letter of the law, it is that the 149 voting is different from the 152 approval. And the philosophical basis is that the Deputy President's office is elective. It is not necessarily appointive. And appointed officers are vetted. Elections, the assumption is the people vetted you.
Right.
Now, if you were to go to the spirit, as Daktari says, nothing stops
Parliament,
the National Assembly Speaker from saying, even though that is the case, we will still want to go through this other process. But if I was to follow the precedent set by Speaker Wetangula, you remember when he was sent a list of CASs to vet, he was very, and I think he was right, he was very clear to say, my vetting issues come from the Katiba, and nothing from the Katiba or the law says I should vet this person. So I don't think there's anything wrong if Parliament receives and goes ahead and votes. That is certainly within their limit. Yes.
So let me see if I get it right. We are saying, unlike a couple of weeks ago, when the President nominated ministers who had then to go through a vetting process in Parliament and then a vote of the whole House of Parliament, blah, blah, blah. In this particular case, it says the President shall nominate a person to fill the vacancy and the National Assembly shall vote on the nomination within 60 days.
There you go.
That means the name is just brought to the House.
And they vote.
Then they vote.
Just like
and there's no threshold in terms of supermajority.
There is actually a simple majority.
It's a simple majority of the quorum of the House.
Of the quorum of the House.
So can even be 30 people present, and so long as they get a third, the man is Deputy President or the woman.
Hey.
But does anybody know who it is?
I think I put my prediction.
Is there a threshold for this quorum that we speak of?
Yes. there's a requirement. The quorum is right now 50.
50.
Yeah, 50 members during my time it used to be 30.
Because you were fewer.
We were fewer, yes.
We had 210
So the
constituencies.
quorum is 50 members.
50 members.
That quorum is low.
So kukiwa na watu 51.
But I can assure you, for like last night, you saw the entire Senate was there.
Yeah.
Nobody was ill and nobody had traveled.
Yes.
67 members.
Nobody fell. Nobody was absent.
Yeah.
Nobody fell.
Absent.
Nobody had was absent with an excuse. So then, before this,
Yes.
right, the other argument has been brought
Yes.
into at the point of electing
Yes.
a president and the running mate,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They go through a process,
Yes.
and there's a vetting process.
Yes.
The vetting
Yes.
process there
Nomination
is
process.
the nomination process. That they have to go to IEBC, and the IEBC has got to confirm that they qualify to be president and deputy president as set out in the constitution.
Yeah.
You must be only a citizen of Kenya,
Yes.
and you cannot be dual citizen.
Yes.
You must be as a certain age.
Yes.
You must.
No, age is not.
Age is not.
No. As long as you are an adult.
Above 18 is fine.
Above 18 years.
Okay. Then you must
have a degree.
Yes, and all these other matters of integrity. So the IEBC will, take in from EACC about your integrity and DCI about your integrity. You must never have been convicted and for 6 months and above. So the IEBC has to look at all those things before confirming. In this particular case, who checks that? Who checks that the person that President William Ruto nominates does not hold any other passport, for example?
There you go. So number one, first of all, the president and his people are the president's, because they're lawyers at the president's office. See, the presidency is not just one person.
It's the office.
It's the office.
Right.
And you have the president, and you have his lawyers, and you have the attorney general, and they'll go through this. And I did that work as advisor as the head of that office.
Right.
So that you don't have mediocre things coming out of the president's office. So that is the first. That's the first point of call. So that's the first point of call. That the president and his office will go through that process and confirm that the people we are sending actually meet the criteria.
Okay.
Then it comes to Bunge. Assuming we follow the process that we said, then it comes to Bunge. Bunge has one of the best public service outfits in the country. If you remember yesterday, Speaker Kingi said, "I'm going to retire for 5 minutes."
Yes.
And 10 minutes later, he had a ruling.
He came back with a very fully worded ruling.
So I can assure you, by the time they said we'll come back at 5 p.m., somebody in the back office had decided it could be this or this, what happens, and had a well-argued document ready for the speaker to either agree or this. It's the speaker's decisions, but somebody had done that work. So I can assure you they will have gone through that process and said, remember the other day they said we required a 2/3 majority of the county assembly. You were not 2/3. Do you remember that? They actually made a so it is
that was the Kericho governance
process. So that process, there are many times when the speaker is called upon to decide whether something is constitutional or not.
Right.
So obviously in the debate around the voting, or even before the debate, the speaker will have gone through all this, and the public service behind the scenes would have gone through. So there's quite, and there are lawyers in parliament also. There is the legal setup, or there's a whole branch of public service in terms of. So I have no doubt that if that is the process we're going to go through, it will definitely go through the steps. But you have raised a point which I suspect Dr. will also agree with you on, which is that if we wanted to have a link with the IEBC, would that be a process where we can then ask the IEBC to chime in? And what happens now that there is no IEBC in place? And those are issues that are alive.
Okay.
But I think, you see, I think I think we're trying to make it very seamless so that the succession planning cannot be compromised.
Thank you.
Because I mean, and you can see, we put those timelines, but it's also a risk for a country. When, for example, say you have got one person as a chief executive officer in charge of the country. You remember go back memory lane, when Moi, I think, was president for nearly, is it 1 year?
1 year.
Okay, but at least during that time, there was no question of succession. It was another old constitution. But our new constitution, we are safeguarding the presidency. And I think that's why, I mean, maybe that is a philosophy that's being applied in the Senate, not necessarily with the trial of Gachagua, because I don't agree with that trial. It was completely shambolic. But I think in terms of now succession, they may not want to wait longer. That's why probably a special session of Parliament today is convened to probably discuss. I think already, and it just tells us, but this thing of Gachagua was predetermined. He gave Elisha Kitambo. So this was predetermined, and I think that's why I think they are rushing it, because I think on the one hand it's probably a good thing that we say law abhors vacuum. So I don't think we need a vacuum in the office of the deputy president if that's the way they want to go, even though the product of the situation currently is questionable, but at least they should be able to fill that office within the shortest time possible. And I'm sure already they have thought of a name. Not even thought, they already have a name. Okay. And it's just going to be put into Parliament. It will be rubber stamping. As you know, the current National Assembly is an extension of the president, not even the presidency itself, but the president.
Daktari,
yes.
When Section 2A was repealed, did we know it would take us to where we are today? Had even the most those whose imaginations could run wild and go to perhaps another solar system, had we imagined that when multipartyism came back to Kenya, we would be where we are today?
I think for me, repeal of Section 2A was a very good thing. And I think it probably also now speaks to the current context, where now you've got freedoms of expression. People can call presidents anything they want to do. You have now about almost over 80 political parties in Kenya, and people can ventilate their political ideas whichever way they want without being stifled. I think, for me, it ushered in the way for the current constitutional dispensation.
Yes, it did.
It did. And I think for me, it's a good thing for the country.
That's why
and a lot of African countries, by the way, Abdi and I have traveled to speak about the constitutional making process. Actually, they admire Kenya.
Absolutely.
We are very admired. In fact, in terms of our constitutional making process, it's actually like a benchmark in the continent. Absolutely. And people have always said, we want to follow the Kenyan process. How do they do it? How like one of the geniuses of our constitution, city is Chapter 6. That, Kenyans wanted a certain type and character of leaders. Although we don't get it. And in the spirit of the constitution.
But it's there. Yeah, you see, the reason why I asked the question is because momentous as the promulgation of the constitution was, this process we're discussing is also momentous.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely. And first of all, let me agree with Daktari. Right now, you think this can happen in any other country in the region?
No.
I doubt. I doubt where this can happen quietly, and the next morning we are discussing So I think we as a country, absolutely, these are things to celebrate. Now, having said that, there's a question you asked.
Except the killing and the abductions of the Gen Zs.
That absolutely.
Yes.
So in terms of the question you asked.
Because again, the spirit of the Constitution.
Yeah. So in terms of the question you asked, the way I thought about it was, there was a man called Olo Aringo. And Olo Aringo, as minister, was guilty of many things. But one of the things, God rest his soul, one of the things he really did was help with the reform of Parliament. He and the, I think, 8th Parliament worked. It was so, Parliament essentially used to be a department of the office of the president. the staff of Parliament used to get paid in OP. The way when the payday comes, you used to cross the road to go to OP to get salary. Paid. Yes. So essentially, Parliament was run out of OP. So there was a lot of effort that went to getting Parliament to be independent. It was really a struggle, and the Section 2A thing was part of that reform process. And people really struggled to have this Parliament have independence. Why I am so pained is that independence that people worked so hard for, now that is constitutionally ingrained from the 11th Parliament, they have just handed it to the executive. At no, absolutely. Not even being bought.
They didn't even negotiate.
They didn't even negotiate.
Hata mandizi
to the point where the chair of a committee, the chair of a committee in Parliament is determined in the State House. I mean, when I ran for the committee you talked about, I ran against the current president. My opponent for chair of the PSC, the Parliamentary Select Committee on the Review of the Constitution, was our current president. And it was secret ballot. I got 15 votes, he got 11 votes. Now, that cannot happen in this parliament. There is no way you can run against somebody sanctioned by State House. Now, if you cannot elect the chair of your committee, what else can you do? So that's why there's a big.
This parliament is an appendage of the executive, and particularly I think the president. That's why they can pass any laws. I mean, if you look at, for example, the situation they are putting the country into with the absence of a Finance Act, which is a money collection law. But then they passed a money expenditure law called the Appropriation Act. I mean, so what is so difficult in saying, I think we have heard the views of the people. Can we rectify this bill so that it can now resonate with the people? So that we cultivate that common good. Again, going to the question of the spirit, what is the common good in passing a legislation? What is the common good in enforcing a constitution? So that, because it's the will of the people, And in fact, now people are beginning to say, I think it's time we actually amend Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, although the spirit was that we will exercise our sovereign authority through our elected representatives, or indirectly, or directly. But now the direct exercise of our sovereign authority is not very clear in the law how we will do it. Now Kenyans are actually calling for an amendment of Article 1, where if we have got a failed regime like this one, or a parliament like the one we have, then let's go to a referendum, we fire all of them. Because the first thing the actually parliament did is to compromise Article 104, the recall clause. That if you're a parliamentarian who goes into slumber, not looking into the issues of your constituency, can we recall you? But the first thing they did, they passed a law that made it almost impossible. Chapter 6, same thing, they killed Chapter 6. So the spirit was killed.
Where I disagree with Kenyans on that is Kenyans want to do revolutions for things they have an opportunity to do in 2 years' time. Look, if you want to fire members of parliament, you don't have to amend the constitution. You actually generally do that anyway. Most times, 80% of members of parliament get not to come back. Unfortunately, we bring worse people than the ones we fire.
And the 20% is the same rotten people.
There you go. So next time we go to the
new
election,
ones bad manners.
So the next no. Actually, it's like the backing scheme is that you should be terrible for you to be elected to. So the answer is, at the next general election, let us elect people for the right reasons, and let's elect right people. Because this institution is so critical. It's so critical in the governance of the country. If you get it wrong, everything else flows from there. All senior officials get vetted by this institution. If you have got how many high office holders other than the current setup now, where really we all know it's a, how many have been rejected out of vetting, for example?
None. Except that,
but there's a problem here. There is a
problem
problem here with everything that we say.
Questions very well.
Was there no lady that was rejected?
And it's only usually by the way 1 or 2 or 3, and it's only ladies, by the way. It's not even men.
So long as
and in the tourism docket.
So long as it is understood and it is known in this country that wrong at whenever it is enacted in high offices will not be punished. Meaning, once we've embraced and enshrined impunity, and then the way we deal with this is this hypocritical manner in which you go about things. This is my view. Even when we elect those good people, and they get into this very poisoned well, how many times do we ask what happened to so and so?
So many times.
No, how many times do we ask that?
I don't know. I think it's I think it's the water or the tea they drink in there. Because it must be laced.
You change before your very eyes, and you wonder.
You've said it.
Sure.
It's the 20% I always keep saying,
Yes.
the 80% is not the problem.
Yes, you should
The
20%
20% that keep coming back, that is the worst.
It is actually
Because
our
they are the
political
orphans.
culture.
You know.
Yes.
I think the problem in this country is that our politics has been so commercialized, and when you have got, say, an executive that believes in just using money and buying people, and maybe it's the bigger picture, Latiff. Maybe we can talk about this another time. When the state of the economy of the country is not accommodating everybody to live in a certain comfortable way, then you create actually a sea of poverty, where now you create actually the slave and master relationship. So you also now create the house Negro, who, because he believes that he works in the house of the master, is a better slave
than the field
Negro.
Yes.
And I think that's actually the situation in our country today. That the people in charge of the country do not want really to create opportunities that can make the people live better wherever. And you see, that is the spirit of devolution. That in devolution, we're supposed actually to devolve services to each and every part of the Republic of Kenya. And if you have traveled this kind of, like some of us have done, imagine there is a very big economic opportunity in all the 47 counties of this Kenya. If you are just to develop an industrialized opportunities, you can have a Kikuyu relocating to Mandera or to Lokitang and still live comfortably. But the executive, the leadership, does not want to do that. And that's why you create this state of desperation.
Very well said. Now you've spoken like a party leader.
What do you mean like I am?
Now you've brought in...
We know you are, but you've spoken like the leader you are.
Oh, the leader I ought to be.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okoh. Your final words in 25 seconds.
Oh, thank you very much. I think it's a momentous occasion. I think there's definitely a lot of things we have not got right, but I think there are a lot of things we have gotten right. I think it's a teachable moment, as they say. I think we should learn from the process and move forward in strengthening our constitutionalism.
Asante sana. Senior Counsel Abdulkadir Mohammed, who was the chair of the Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee, and Dr. Okoh, who was the CEO of the Committee of Experts.
CEO of COE.
CEO of the COE. Thank you very much for keeping it locked. In the next hour, we get into our Health Friday conversation, 9 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has gazetted the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, consequently formalizing the removal of the country's second-in-command from office. The Gazette notice dated October 17, 2024 was released last night immediately after the Senate approved the impeachment motion against Gachagua. In the notice, the Senate Speaker listed the 5 out of 11 grounds on which the Senate voted to have Gachagua sent home. Following Gachagua's impeachment, the President is expected to nominate a replacement and submit the name to the National Assembly for approval. Meanwhile, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's fight for political survival may be heading to the courts as he hopes to overturn his removal from office now. Besides launching a legal battle in an attempt to get back his job, Gachagua may hope to save his future political career in case he is replaced. The law bars impeached leaders from seeking public office unless the courts overturn the removal from office. Although Gachagua has never indicated he would seek the country's presidency, his previous larger-than-life influence as the country's second-in-command has put him in a pole position of succeeding President William Ruto. Now, residents of Mawego village in Homa Bay County are counting losses due to the destruction caused by the strong winds. The wind damaged houses and crops. Residents affected by the tragedy have called on the Met Department to intervene and be issuing early warning signs so they can prepare themselves. Rose Missouri is a resident.
There was heavy storms that destroyed the farms, that the trees fell down, and also our items like water containers were broken, and it was chaos. People are counting losses at the Lydiah market where the roofs are overblown. The roofs are overblown off by the cyclone. So we are asking for the meteorological department to give us advice on how to live in that area. And then I'm also adding Yes. We have never experienced that. I've lived in that community for over 30 years. I have never seen such a kind of an occurrence.
Now, one more Mpox case has been confirmed in the country, taking the total number of cases recorded so far to 14. Health Cabinet Secretary Dr. Deborah Baraza in a statement said the case was recorded in Uasin Gishu County. The cases are distributed as follows: Nakuru 2 cases, Kajiado 2, Bungoma 2, Taita Taveta 1 case, Busia 1, Nairobi 1, Mombasa 1, Makueni 1 case, Kericho 1, Kilifi 1, and Uasin Gishu a single case as well. CS Baraza noted that of the confirmed cases, 8 have fully recovered and 5 individuals are undergoing treatment. She also stated that the number of deaths still remain at 1, which occurred on October 11th, 2024 from a patient who previously tested positive for Mpox and later recovered. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned those holding Israeli hostages that they will regret it. According to Netanyahu, Israel will ensure that it returns its citizens taken hostage by Hamas in Gaza, assuring them that Hamas will pay for harm meted on their citizens.
Israel is committed to doing everything in our power to bring all of them home. And Israel will guarantee the safety of all those who return our hostages. But to those who would harm our hostages, I have another message. Israel will hunt you down and bring you to justice.
Speaking about the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwari, who was killed by the Israeli army, Netanyahu said that the IDF has made great strides in eradicating terrorism in Syria, Iran and Lebanon. He said that the main leaders of the groups he describes as terrorists have been killed by Israel.
Today, Yahya Sinwar is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. The axis of terror that was built by Iran is collapsing before our eyes. Nasrallah is gone. His deputy Muhsin is gone. Haniyeh is gone. Def is gone. Sinwar is gone. The reign of terror that the Iranian regime has imposed on its own people and on the peoples of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, this too will come to an end.
Sinwar is accused of being the main organizer of the October 7th, 2023 attack against Israel that resulted in the deaths of about 1,200 people, while hundreds of others were taken hostage. He took the position following the killing of his predecessor Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed in Tehran in August. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so today, Friday, the holiday has begun. If you have taken Gachagua Day in anticipation for Mashujaa Day on Sunday and then another holiday on Monday, well done. Kudos to you. So people have called this Gachagua Day today. It's a holiday. It's a public holiday. They're not coming to town. And therefore, the roads are looking a bit okay. That's why Kiambu Road is not so bad. Thika Superhighway is not so bad. It begins at Italy heading towards town. Westlands into town has not been bad. Now, avoid State House Road, all right? And this is because there is some enhanced security around State House. I wonder why. I mean, it was just an impeachment. And it was not in State House. It was elsewhere.
As well.
Surely.
So, yes, there was.
Yeah, but there is no impeachment in the State House. Are they going to swear in a new deputy president in
Let's
State
take
House?
the view that the intelligence service may have something to do with it. Yes, let's take that.
Sawa, wasitufungie barabara. Yeah. So anyway, avoid State House Road because there is clearly an issue there both ways. No traffic moving at all. Coming into town from Mombasa Road, you'll only find traffic after Bunyala. From Westlands coming towards town, you'll not find much traffic. Even ring roads, Parklands and Westlands are okay. James Keshoro is fine. Limuru Road has been busy heading in towards UN Avenue. It's okay. It's starting to clear up now. But you know those guys, by 12 o'clock, they'll be gone.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
8 minutes after 9. Good morning and welcome to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this week. We have former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who hopefully is feeling a bit better, and he's been watching our conversations on KTN this morning, or just following our conversations on YouTube and Facebook. Asante sana, we appreciate you. We wish you all the best, Baba Gachagua, and we also wish all the best to Mama Dorcas, as these things happen. Ni hali tu ya maisha. Don't worry, even this shall pass. This too
shall pass.
Shall pass. It's what happens. So we've had that conversation, and now we wait to see what happens now. 14 days within which the president shall nominate a new deputy president, and that name shall go to parliament. And just like we've heard from the lawyers who wrote the constitution, there is no expectation for any vetting that is to take place in parliament. It's just a vote. Honorable members, I have received communication from His Excellency the President, who has nominated C.T. Muga as our new deputy president. We shall go into a vote. Acclamation. Well, as many as have similar opinion, and that's it. And CT will go to Kasarani and
C.T.
Muga, do swear. No, let's repeat that. I shall continue. Let's repeat do swear. To serve. Okay. I hope we are not going to have that kind of drama again in Kasarani with this incoming deputy president. Our Health Friday conversation today and this week is on a matter that we haven't really discussed much when I do our Health Friday conversations: ear, nose, and throat, ENT. So we hear the ENT doctors. What do they look at? Ni wale wa kuangalia kama masikio yako iko na wax.
Kama mdomo wako iko na meno.
Kama mdomo wako iko na meno. Kama mapua yako ni kubwa.
Yes. Ama macho yako pia ni kubwa.
Yeah. Right? So we have then invited our consultant ENT specialist to come and join us, Dr. Wahome Karanja. Good morning, Daktari.
Good morning, Latiff. Good morning, City.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great pleasure to be here this morning in SpiceFM.
Karibu. That's the hot seat of the Situation Room. How does it feel?
Well, it feels okay. But I think it's about to get hotter. So
the guy who was sitting there before you is a PhD from Warwick University.
Correct.
And has written constitutions. He writes constitutions like someone sells mboga.
Correct.
Mama mboga akiuza sukuma. Jamaa anaandikia constitution, katiba, Liberia, what,
Correct.
So you're in a good place.
Asante.
Good space.
Yeah, thank you.
You'll tell us what an ENT specialist is and what they do. You see, CT has mentioned eyes. Does ENT cover eye as well? Is it the whole face, or is it just ear, nose, and throat? And what's the connection between those? All right, and so on and so forth. Also, and we had asked you this before going on air. Yes, do you admit at Aga Khan?
Correct.
Right? Because you're a consultant ENT specialist, and so you also have patients that need to be admitted. Once in a while, you do that.
Correct, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know about the Aga Khan Hospital's home care program.
Yes, I know about it, and I encourage them to continue with it. I think it's a good thing, both in terms of patient well-being and also in terms of lowering costs of healthcare. Everyone wants to recover in an environment they are more familiar with, and I think for overall well-being and even recovery for those who are not necessarily required to be admitted, I think it's a good thing that they are doing. Yeah,
is it cheaper for I as a patient to opt for home care?
Absolutely, in many ways, because then you are avoiding the costs that come with the hospital admission. Because again, there is nursing care, there is personnel that are running the services that you enjoy in the hospitality itself. So yes, there is a reduction in cost to a client. Not to mention movement, visits by relatives. They can be able to see you without visiting hours.
They can come at any time.
Correct.
And there'll be no askari telling them, Masai Meisha.
Correct. and that might be better for some patients depending on the condition that they're having. So I applaud them, and I really hope it goes well.
Very good.
Correct.
City, this week, Daktari, City goes to an African country every week. He mines proverbs from that country and he comes and gives us a proverb. Now, the job of our guest is to listen to the proverb, think about it, and give us your interpretation of that proverb. So this week, City, you've been in the People's Democratic Republic
of Algeria.
Next
week, I will be in Tunisia.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Maghreb countries.
It's a Maghreb country.
Okay.
Yes. Today's proverb is a fairly simple, straightforward one. The absent always has a justification.
The absent always has a justification.
So my interpretation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I think from the look of it, it's basically, I think, a sharp analysis of human nature. That we will tend to, if we are late or we are absent from something that is required of us, come up with a way, either creative or imagined or real, of why we were absent. But on the witty side of things, you can imagine that when I am absent, then I hold some temporal power, because then I'm leaving you to speculate on why I'm absent. and then I'm also being given time to create a story around what my absence was, whether true or imagined. But interestingly, I want to add that, did you know that Kenya also is second in terms of the Numbeo listing in Africa as having the best healthcare system? Second to South Africa. And third, I think, is Algeria, and fourth is Tunisia. So maybe there's some relationship.
Kenya is second.
Correct.
In Africa.
Correct.
In terms of the best healthcare system.
Correct.
So this is noise we make. Because there's system and then there's practice.
Correct.
Utilization of that particular system.
Yeah.
But we're talking system.
System.
Okay.
Baba. Yeah.
System.
System
sawa.
Okay.
So I think a little bit of hope there.
No, a lot of hope.
A lot of hope. No, it's a lot of things to
lot
celebrate.
Yes.
And just making sure that then we utilize this system and continue building on it.
Absolutely.
Dr. Wahome, what's an ENT specialist?
So an ENT specialist is a qualified medical doctor who has further trained in matters specific to the ear, nose and throat. Lots of times we are also understood to manage areas that are adjacent to where we manage, which is eyes. And that's the domain of the ophthalmologist or the eye specialist. And also dental, which is the teeth, the jaws. So generally, ear, nose and throat patients, doctors would manage conditions of those areas and the head and neck region, commonly areas like the thyroid gland and so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went to school first. You did a degree in medicine and surgery.
Correct.
How many years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
You went through internship for a year.
Correct.
You then worked for 2-3 years.
Correct.
Before you qualified to go now for a master's.
A master's in ear, nose and throat surgery. Correct.
So then you went for a master's in ear, nose and throat. How many years?
4 years.
Okay. So 6 years plus 1 year plus 3 years. Hizo ni miaka ngapi so far, City? Kumi. Okay. Plus another how many years now?
4 years.
4 years.
Yes.
So after 14 years, that's when you become an ENT specialist.
Generally, yes.
Okay.
Kuna masomo mengine unaweza kusoma.
Okay. So when we talk about ear, nose and throat, right? There are people who just assume why those three? Why are they interconnected? Why do they come together?
Because they are interconnected both anatomically, in terms of proximity to one another, and the conditions that affect one region would generally also be transferable to the other. So when you manage them, when you look at that region in its totality, the ear, nose and throat and the head and neck, then you're better able to manage those conditions. Case in point is in children. 5 out of 6 children would have an ear infection below the age of 3 per year. And when you have ear infections, you tend to also come down with cases of throat infections like tonsillitis. And you may also have breathing problems associated with also poor sleep and concentration. So these children with hearing loss or hearing disability are also not concentrating in school properly, are also having a poorer quality of life. And so I think the wisdom is to manage that area in totality. So it's more holistic to look at that region in that speciality.
5 out of 6 children under 3 will have an ear infection.
In a year.
In a
Every
year?
year, yes.
What brings this about?
So lots of things. One of them is that that region is poorly developed. So there is a drainage from the ear to the back of the nose through what is called a eustachian tube. And that drainage mechanism is poorly developed. And therefore, they are more likely or at risk of developing ear infections.
When you say poorly developed, what do you mean?
They're still undergoing development, so shorter and wider. So when you have a throat infection, for example, or a sinus infection, in those children, they're more likely to have that infection going over to the ear and causing problems there.
Can it be avoided?
Yes, it can be avoided, but I think the more important thing is to be detected early and treated properly. Yes, but there are risk factors to these conditions. For example, overcrowding, early schooling, interaction with persons who have infections, better practices of hygiene, for example. So you have children who start early schooling, suffering these conditions more frequently than those who go to school later.
Okay. Now, what's the worst that can happen when you get an ear infection?
So most times when a child has an ear infection, they'll tug at the ear. And ear infections tend to be painful, so they will cry. And many times the parent has not slept by the time they're walking into your office also when they bring in a child. So everyone in the house does not sleep. So they're uncomfortable, they're in pain. Oftentimes it begins with a viral infection, and these are self-limiting. So your painkillers would be able to relieve a lot of those symptoms, lots of fluids and so on. But when it progresses more and perhaps becomes a bacterial infection and lasts longer, you may find that you need to institute an antibiotic. Now, if those things do not happen, the worst case scenario is that ear infection can become chronic. In other words, it can last longer than the usual duration, where you can have, for example, a rupture of the eardrum and pus or fluid draining out of the ear. And over time, this can also lead to hearing loss.
Over time?
Over time. There are those who may not have that pus draining or fluid draining out, but there is a buildup of that fluid in the middle ear, what is called otitis media with effusion. Now, in these children, you'll begin to realize that their hearing is impaired. So they need higher volumes. They will struggle in concentrating in class. They will not listen to instructions. Now, you can imagine the flip side. The teacher thinks that a child is not attentive,
Playing truant.
or truant, and they can be punished when in the real sense they're not hearing.
They actually can't hear.
Yeah, and therefore, obviously, learning is impaired. And in this very early age of childhood learning, you can imagine we need all the input from either visual or hearing stimulation. So if you miss out on that very important foundational aspect, it can have long-term effects on learning and development.
Okay.
Correct.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying many of the hearing losses that happen with children will have started with an infection.
Correct.
Is there any other thing that can lead to hearing loss of a child?
Absolutely. There are many reasons for hearing loss, one of which is congenital. You can have hearing loss that exists within families. If you come from a family where you have relatives who have had hearing loss, then you are at risk. Childhood infections outside of even ear disease can cause hearing loss. Meningitis, for example, severe infections. Medications that are used to treat these infections, some of them can be toxic to the ear and reduce the ability to hear. Yes, so there are those causes. Trauma, for example, can lead to hearing loss. But the most common tends to be middle ear infections.
And then how can you detect this early? As a parent, that you have a child there and the child is growing and developing. They got a ear infection 2 years ago when the child was 1, and now they are 3, they are still developing. How can you detect hearing loss? Is there a way in which you can start noticing or you can tell that your child is on that verge of hearing loss?
Yes, so the subtle signs will be that if they are using devices, for example, the television or radio, they'll tend to raise the volume, or if they're using your mobile phone, they'll do the same. And they would ask you to repeat. And or when you speak to them, you'll realize that you need to raise your volume, or oftentimes they're not responding immediately. Once you have those telltale signs of somebody who's struggling to hear, then it is time to seek help and perhaps have their hearing checked.
Can it be corrected?
Yes, majority of this fortunately is correctable, either through medications, through or through some procedures, medical or surgical procedures.
E-N-T. We look at the E and then N.
The nose.
Yes, this season that we are in, both Eric and I have had problems with a cough that doesn't seem to go away, and an irritation that doesn't seem to go. So we've actually been asking
and
ourselves.
For me, voice loss.
Yeah, he actually lost. I mean, historically, he lost his voice. He had to look after it and talk. Yes, which means I had to talk more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is it that would bring about something which, one, if you go for if you go for a checkup or if you go to get treatment, nothing is actually found. There's actually nothing wrong with you, and yet you still have the irritation and you still cough.
Correct.
What brings about such things? Is it the weather? Is it the season? Is it a sign that the things that we have an allergy towards? What is it?
Okay, so that's the ear, the nose and the throat.
Yes. Yes.
So again, silent things. So throat infections. One of the things that would make you need to see an ENT specifically, or even a doctor, is if it is progressive. If you have a voice loss that's lasting well over a week. In Eric's case, more than 2 days would be tough because if he's a professional voice user, one day is a lot. Professional voice users, that's a challenge. Yourselves, teachers, politicians, people who need to speak for a living, musicians. So we take care of those. So if you're having a problem with your voice, where you're having to clear your voice constantly, or you're having a sore throat, most of these will be treated with home remedies. So the first thing is voice rest. Do not strain a voice that's already straining. Again, I don't know if you are aware that when you whisper because of a sore throat, you actually damage the voice even further.
Ate?
Yes. So the recommendation is, if you are really straining, stop speaking.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Completely.
And take plenty of fluids, because a lot of water would be able to help. There are also these home remedies with turmeric, garlic, and that help just to rehydrate. And that rest will reduce or relieve the edema or the swelling that's around the vocal cords that produce sound or voice. And generally that would go away. But if you're having persistence of more than a week, or it's progressive, meaning it's worsening and yet you've treated it, or it's recurrent, more times than usual, and yet you are exercising what is called good proper voice hygiene. What that means is you're not straining when you speak, you're not whispering when your voice is going, and you're not shouting or screaming, meaning you're damaging your vocal cords. If you're practicing all those things and lubricating well by taking enough fluids, then you need to seek help. And typically would examine, listen to your story, and there's at least good equipment that we can be able to help visualize and see what the change that you're experiencing could be coming from. Maybe you have acidity or reflux issues that are causing a strain or damage to the vocal cord area, and by treating that, then we'll be able to give you help. When it comes to the nose, CT, and you've talked about the season where you find yourself having sore throats, perhaps sneezing a lot, the things that could cause is either what we are ingesting or what the environment is, like environmental pollutants. And depending on where you live or the situation in the place where you spend most times or your home, if you have allergies, for example, you may need to have a look at that environment and alter it. If you find that when you walk into your house, you have a sore throat or you sneeze or these symptoms are magnified there could be something within that environment. Commonly, it could be dust or what you call house dust mites, or even mold. If you're having leakage in the wet areas, the kitchens and the bathrooms that has some mold, the spores within that mold could be triggering some of these things. So when you think through it and perhaps you even find medical help, then either a change, including a paint job, correcting plumbing, changing the kind of sheets that you use, dusting more, vacuuming, those are the things that can be very useful. And of course, lots of fluids and rest as well.
Okay. A couple of questions coming in, and of course we'll be taking many more of them. Steve Oma says, Dr. I have a kid who is 6 months now, and there's one issue that I've noticed in him, and it bothers me a lot. The issue at night, he normally breathes as if he has a blocked nose, like mtu akona homa at night.
Okay.
What could that be?
So a stuffy nose is not uncommon in children. And by the way, children are not small adults. There is a lot more complexity than... Seriously, yeah, there's more complexity. If you shrink City, he will not be City when he was 5. A lot more changes physiologically and in individual spaces within a human being as they transition into adolescence and adulthood. So they are a whole ball game. Now, it is not uncommon for children, even at the age of 6, to have a stuffy nose. But again, if it persists longer than 2 weeks, they are not unwell, they are feeding properly, then you want to find out why are they stuffy. It could be allergies and like the things we've alluded to. If they're sneezing, if they are itching, then perhaps you want to control that. Sometimes you might need medications like anti-allergy medications to control it. Later on, between the age of 6 and say 3 years, if your child has a stuffy nose, is snoring and mouth breathing, and the snore is loud, children are not supposed to snore, except when they have an upper respiratory infection, which we say is pretty frequent in these children in early learning phase. So if that is persisting despite them being in perfectly good health, then you may need to have an evaluation to find out, is there something physical going on with them? And one of the common things that happen in children is called adenoids. Or adenoid enlargement. So adenoids are tissues along with tonsils, or rather they are similar to tonsil tissues, but they are found at the back of the nose. Everyone develops adenoids from as early as 6 months of age, but they hardly cause any problems. But there are those for whom the adenoids overgrow and occupy that space within the nose cavity, and they will lead now to those signs of obstruction, which is snoring or loud snoring and breathing difficulty. So your child is waking up, crying at night, looking for positions of comfort when they are asleep. You may need to have that investigated and treated.
Are adenoids different from sinuses?
Yes, they are.
What's the difference?
So sinuses are air-filled cavities in our skulls. And just to progress the discussion on why children and adults children are just not small adults. The three of us have fully formed sinuses. Children do not, and they form at different phases. So our skulls have these air-filled cavities that continue into the nose. And their work is basically to help also produce mucus that is protective in the nose. They also give us our typical voice. That's why when you have a cold, somebody says that you sound stuffy or you have what is called a hyponasal speech. Now, sinuses can get infected, and that is what is called sinusitis. And one of the common things we hear when people visit us in the clinic is, I have sinuses.
Yes.
So the first thing you have to do is to tell them,
of course,
then I'm proud of you, or I'm happy about it. Because yes, you should have sinuses, just like you would have hair. So, but adenoids in children are actually the commonest cause, especially in children below 6, for recurrent sinus infection. So if your child is having a recurrent stuffy nose, including maybe the one who spoke about their 6-month child. So if you're having a stuffy nose, recurrent, what is called a postnasal drip, cough, maybe a bad breath, then the adenoids could be the source of sinus infection. And treating them could treat also the recurrence of the sinusitis.
Okay. Let's take a break. We'll take some more questions after the break. Our guest this morning is Dr. Wahome Karanja. He is an ENT surgeon. He is here to teach us more about ENT, the ear, nose, and throat. If you've got issues like that and you'd like to understand 1 or 2, 3 things, you can hop to our YouTube live stream and you can ask a question. We'll pick it up and we'll pass it on to the Daktari. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your
Save money on your rising electricity bill with StarTime Solar Home Solution. We offer a complete home and commercial energy saving system that includes solar panels with 15-year warranty, lithium battery with 10 years warranty, and an inverter with 5 years warranty. StarTime Solar Home Solution is efficient, reliable, and safe to power essential appliances, complete home lighting, refrigerators, air conditioners, washing machines, microwaves, iron box, instant shower, and entertainment devices, television, computers, Wi-Fi, and so much more. Say yes to reduced electricity bills and call us today on 0719 077 777 and get started on your green energy journey today. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Nairobi is getting closer to its hottest temperature of the day, 21 currently, highs of 25. Kakamega 23, currently highs of 27. Eldoret 18, currently highs of 23. Mombasa 28, highs of 31. Malindi 29, highs of 31. Nakuru 20, highs of 25. Nyeri 21, highs of 26. Kampala 23, highs of 29. Kinshasa 26, highs of 30. Lagos 24, highs of 30. Johannesburg 19, highs of 27. Mogadishu 30, highs of 31. Addis Ababa 19, highs of 21. Dar es Salaam 27, highs of 31. Paris 13, highs of 17. Beijing 17, lows of 6. London foggy at 10, highs of 17. Clear skies in New York 9, highs of 20.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continue our conversation with Dr. Wahome Karanja, ENT specialist. So there's a question here. My dad has a hearing problem that is getting worse with time. My grandfather had the same challenge. What could be the cause of this?
Okay. So remember we spoke about hearing loss also running in families.
Yes.
But there is a condition of age-related hearing loss. And this one many people will not escape. Beyond the age of 60, in fact, we recommend that it would be wise to seek a hearing consult. Hearing, just like vision.
Suchi, please repeat. Beyond the age of 60.
I was not sending any message.
You see the need?
Yes, I see the need. So beyond the age of 60, it would be wise or prudent for anyone to have their hearing checked.
Can you repeat what you just said again?
Beyond the age of 60. So first client for the week next week, CT. Yes. So
why?
And so first of all, hearing is a silent disease. It's difficult to tell that somebody has no hearing. Well, it's very quick to see somebody who is not visualizing, but hearing is very important along with hearing to help us appreciate our environment. Hearing actually even gives you what is called visual imagery. If you're crossing a street and you hear a motorbike coming behind you, your brain immediately starts to process that there is this that you expect. If you hear a truck, then you know that I'll probably you manage your reactions because of hearing. So it's very, very critical. Now, as you grow older, the cochlea, which is the organ of hearing that is responsible for that sensation, ages as well. And that can lead to age-related hearing loss. So you start raising the volume. You start sort of struggling in social interactions to hear what your neighbor is saying. So that's what typically happens. Now, if it gets to a point where you are withdrawing, you certainly need a hearing test done. So for the caller, it's very important for his father to have a hearing test done. This is usually done by the ENTs along with our audiologists, where we do a hearing test. And that hearing test is non-invasive. very quick, and we are able in a short space of time to be able to determine, does he actually have a hearing loss, and what is the kind of hearing loss that he has, and what is the degree of hearing loss. If it's mild, then we give advice and we say, these are the things that you can do in terms of modification, altering your hearing environment so that you can be able to appreciate a lot more. If it's moderate or severe, which means that you are really struggling, even in one-on-one situations, perhaps there are things that we could do to help improve that hearing. Now, if it is the cochlea, which is the end organ of hearing that is involved, we cannot restore that hearing. All we can do is aid it. And so that is where hearing aids come in, where we can prescribe devices that are able to program that hearing to be raised to the level of normal hearing, and you can be able to reconnect with the environment.
I've had issues with my throat producing phlegm abnormally for a month. Now, what could be the problem? What advice would you give?
So again, not uncommon. So if you're having phlegm, is there pain associated with that or not? So that would be a good question to ask. What's the diet? Are they having symptoms of irritation, what you might call reflux symptoms as well? Because that might be what is causing the problem. Some people have some allergies or problems with certain foodstuffs, certain nuts, milk allergies, gluten, and so on. And avoiding some of these things in the diet, restricting them, might be able to change the quality of that mucus being produced or saliva being produced, and perhaps allow the phlegm to go away. Gargling, but generally good oral and dental hygiene will help a lot of these problems go away. But when it progresses further, and then now you're having problems of swallowing, perhaps your voice is changing, it might be a time to get checked, because 1 month is a long time.
Where does the throat begin and where does it end?
Okay. So the throat begins at the back of the tongue.
Where is the back of the tongue?
And the back of the tongue is where if you imagine sticking your finger in, and you would feel like choking, or where the toothbrush ends up going when you're brushing your tongue. So that would be the beginning of the throat, or what is called the pharynx. And it continues towards the back, and it's a three-dimensional space, because then it's interacting with the back, with the roof, which is the nose, the nose cavity, and progressing further down, where now it branches into two areas, which is the airway, or the larynx, or the voice box, and the food passage, where there's a small, tight area called a sphincter that's supposed to remain closed until you're swallowing. But we're always swallowing. We're building up saliva. We're also swallowing mucus from the nose every few minutes. That's passing through this sphincter. So that's the throat area. So when somebody, for example, that's a fantastic question. When somebody says, I have throat cancer, it could be in the area of the larynx, which is the voice box, and typically then that person would have voice changes. Or it could be at the area of the oropharynx, or the beginning of the food pipe, which typically means swallowing is a problem. So you have progressive difficulty in swallowing. So you have struggled with meat, then after a month you're struggling even with ugali, and then after a month now you're struggling with porridge. That progressive struggling with swallowing is an ominous sign that there could be something occupying that space, that could be a growth in that area.
Throat cancer you mentioned.
Correct.
So go there. What's that?
So throat cancer means an abnormality in that area of the throat that I've talked about, which is the pharynx, which could be the oropharynx, it could be the laryngopharynx, or the larynx itself. So any of those areas there, you can have an abnormal cell growth that leads to symptoms. Unchecked or untreated, of course, then it can be able to spread. And throat cancer is actually one of the leading cancers among the head and neck cancers, even in our region, predominantly because of the risk of cigarette smoking. A little bit of environmental risk as well, a small portion of genetic as well. But one of the important things about throat cancer to note is caught early, it's also highly treatable. One of the most highly treatable cancers you can get.
So what kind of screening do you do for throat cancer?
I wish we had a typical screening for throat cancer, the same way we could do for women with pap smears and so on. But it doesn't exist because of the sort of semi-invasive nature of that. But the best thing would be just education education of voice and the things to note. If your voice has changed and is progressive over a month, you need to be screened. If you're struggling to swallow and you have a feeling of a lump in the throat when you swallow and it has lasted at least a month, you need to be screened. And what would that screening be? It would involve, of course, the physical examination. Sometimes we have tools and instruments that look into those areas. And should we find a growth, then we're able to biopsy that growth, and that will be able to give us a result of whether you have a cancer or not.
Okay. And the throat cancer is different from esophageal cancer?
Correct.
Why? How?
Because the esophagus begins below the throat, from that area of the sphincter that goes, but you can have, because the esophagus is a long tube, you can have an esophageal cancer that's
close
at
to
the top.
the throat.
Yeah, so maybe coming from the throat and going into the esophagus, or the esophagus going up to the throat. So you'll find that we will manage that collaboratively with the people who are called cardiothoracic surgeons. Then you can have mid and lower esophageal cancers, and that lower esophageal cancer can also go to the stomach and become and involve what is called gastric cancer. So the body is interesting and complex.
No, the body is very interesting, which gets me to, we hear of throat cancer. Why don't we hear of ear cancer?
It is there, but the incidence is not as much as the throat.
How come? And they're connected?
I think it has something to do with even the blood supply to that ear area. And also the interaction of irritants that would cause throat cancer. So typically, the commonest causes of these throat cancers are things that we consume. So if you're chewing tobacco, then you are at a high risk of oral cancers of the tongue and that area. And even at the back, if you're smoking tobacco, then you're at a higher, very increased risk, especially if you also do it at the same time with alcohol consumption, because these irritants are constantly in that region irritating, and therefore they cause the changes in the cells that bring up cancer. But the ear is different. You don't have a lot of those irritants going into the ear. We're not pouring things going in there. And so we do not have that high incidence of ear disease. But overall, ear disease is still a huge contributor to our well-being, because hearing loss, drainage of ears, ear pain and so on, those are things that cause a significant reduction in quality of life.
In Kenya, as an ENT, what would you say are the commonest cancers within the sphere that you're a specialist in?
Yeah, so throat cancer tops the list.
Kabisa.
And laryngeal cancer, correct? Yes. And then the head and neck cancers. So from the if you leave the region of the throat, then you talk about salivary gland tumors, parotid gland, submandibular glands. These are the glands that are found around the head and neck region. To imagine the parotid is a gland that's found in front of your ears. It's the one that, when enlarged in children, you say they have mumps. And then the submandibular is just found below the jaw. Sometimes it's mistaken for lymph nodes. Again, that is in terms of reducing incidence from the laryngeal cancers. And then, of course, the thyroid gland itself, which is found at the bottom of the neck, before the chest, at the front. Again, leading cause, but more common in women than in men.
Do you find in your experience that these cancers are at an increase in the country?
Yes, they are.
Now this is age group, gender,
demographic.
Yes, exactly.
So the demographic is generally in those who are above the age of 40, perhaps because they have had a longer interaction with the environmental irritants, pollutants, and so on. And of course, carcinogens, the things that cause cancers that we consume. So you have a higher incidence in people above the age of 40 and a much higher incidence in those who are above 60. In terms of women, where there is a little bit of a difference, is thyroid tumors. So majority of thyroid swellings are benign, but there are those among them which can either start as cancers or transform to become cancer. So in this demographic, you find more women. And so there is a correlation between the gender of women and thyroid disease, so to speak.
I would explain that thyroid story. What are thyroids and what do they do? What's their importance in the body?
Okay, so the thyroid gland is found at the front of the neck. It's what you call a shield-shaped organ. You don't feel it unless it's enlarged. So when you look at somebody who has a swollen neck or a swollen bulge on the neck, most times you will say they have a thyroid enlargement or they have a goiter. Now that thyroid gland is very useful in producing what is called thyroid hormone that allows us to balance our consumption of energy or glucose for the body. Now, if you have excessive hormone production, then you're also consuming much more. So you get symptoms that include maybe a rise in blood pressure. If you have a reduced thyroid hormone production, then basal metabolism is also lowered. So you find lack of energy, hair changes, and so on. But you can still have a large thyroid without a change in the concentration of the hormone. So you are called euthyroid. So regardless of whether it is raised, normal, or reduced, any thyroid enlargement requires further investigation. So we may need to have a look, examine. There are imaging investigations like ultrasound we could do that tell us what component of the thyroid is enlarged. Is it both thyroid lobes that are enlarged? How deep is it going? So in terms of size. And then also a little bit of a needle stick from that thyroid to tell us what are the cells of the thyroid. Are we talking about a benign thyroid swelling or an enlarged or a cancerous thyroid swelling? Because that then allows us to know what kind of surgery, for example, if that's the step we'll take, that we will need, and also other managements around the surgery. And of course the thyroid hormone tests, which are blood tests that determine whether you have normal or abnormal thyroid hormone production.
Do you remove thyroids?
Yes.
At
Yes, we do.
some point.
Correct.
Now, are there effects to someone who has no thyroid? I've heard about hormonal imbalance, mood
Correct.
swings, and such kind of things. Is it?
Fortunately, outside of the so ideally, when you remove the thyroid, you could remove it in part or in whole. If you're talking about a cancer, most times you'll have the entire thyroid gland removed. And the reason for that is obviously because then you do not want to have the risk of spread and followed by some level of treatment thereafter. If you have, say, one thyroid lobe that is markedly enlarged, you can remove that and spare the other one. This spared one will likely take up the work of producing enough thyroid hormone for your body's needs. So you'll be fine. But when you have a total thyroid removal, it means you're no longer producing thyroid hormone, which is very critical for your body's function, in which case then you will need hormonal supplements of thyroxine. Fortunately, it's readily available in any corner of this country, and it's also very fairly priced. So in terms of long term, for somebody who is no longer producing thyroid hormone, but required total thyroid removal, then survival, quality of life is pretty fantastic.
Pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same. Yes.
Okay. There's something that I don't know whether it still happens, but it used to happen a lot when we were growing up. Kids are taken to this guy who puts a spoon in there and comes with a makasi and they cut thing.
Kilimi.
At the back of the throat.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
What's that? What are they cutting and why?
So that cutting there is called the uvula or kilimi. And it's a traditional
Uvula
practice.
is an English name.
Yes, uvula.
It is not uvula. It's not Kiluya.
No, it is not. It's actually the uvula. It's a thing that hangs. If you look at a cartoon character who has opened their mouth, you see the thing that's dangling.
Yes.
But it's very important.
What does it do?
So it's part of what is called the soft palate or the pharynx. Yeah, the nasal. Sorry, it is part of what is called the soft palate or the end of the soft palate. It moves. So when you swallow, if you imagine that it's hanging there, it'll actually move backwards and prevent regurgitation. If I removed your soft palate and you swallowed water, some of it would come through your nose because then that area is not being blocked by that uvula falling backwards. So anyway, traditionally, by the way, as ENTs, if I look into your throat and I listen to how you speak, I can almost tell where you come from if you don't have an uvula. Yeah, because there are subsets within our communities who still practice ovulectomy. We discourage it a lot for a few reasons. There has been obviously incidents of people who have had an ovulectomy and have literally bled to death because they had a bleeding disorder. So it's a risky thing for some people, but it's still carried out, unfortunately. We feel it has really no medical value except in very, very few select cases. The belief used to be that when you cut it, you will reduce the incidence of homas in children, the constant cough that they get. It's hardly involved in those kind of things.
So now that we lost it, I was taken.
Okay.
Then I was given soda.
Yeah.
To relax.
Correct.
It has to be very early in the morning.
Yeah.
Because of the bleeding, I believe.
Correct.
So now that we don't have it, so what do we lose? What don't we?
You haven't lost much. It's useful, but it's also vestigial at the same time. There are those who are unfortunate where the overzealous cut causes now a lot of irritation, and in that healing process, there's scarring that now doesn't move. Your soft palate is not moving well enough. So then you will have a problem with voice and others. But for majority of people whose uvulas have been removed, they go on to live a very full life.
Does your profession, your specialty cover tonsillitis?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, that's the mainstay management of ear, nose and throat. Yeah, because of the incidence of tonsillitis.
To remove or not remove the tonsils?
We have very, very not even stringent, but very well clearly defined reasons for tonsil removal or tonsillectomy. One of which is if you have 7 or more episodes of tonsillitis, which means you have been okay, you have found a bout of tonsillitis, which is confirmed, what is called clinically. You were unwell, you had a sore throat, you had a fever, painful swallowing, and on examination, those tonsils were infected. You had to take a concoction of medications, including an antibiotic. 7 times. That is a real absolute indication for tonsil surgery. If you have 5 episodes of the same, each year of 2 years, then you require tonsil surgery. If you have 3 of the same each year for 3 years, then you require tonsil surgery. Now, most children will have a tonsillitis episode by their 5th birthday, but not all children will require tonsil surgery. So majority of tonsil problems that will therefore push you towards tonsil surgery exist in children. But we also remove tonsils in adults. I have removed tonsils in an 82-year-old lady who said she was finally brave enough to take the bold step, but she had been getting 7 episodes since she was 16. So I asked her, Sasa wewe.
7 episodes per year?
Yes, per year, including maybe a hospital admission once every 2 years. I asked her, why did you do it? She said, now I'm brave. I mean, why did you not do it before? She said, Sasa nimejikaza. So most common reason for tonsils removal is actually recurrence of infections. The other one is swellings within the tonsils, including also tonsil cancers, but very rare. Very, very rare.
What is it that would cause the inflammation in the tonsils?
So first of all, tonsils are lymph organs. So they are part and parcel of our protection system. They help us in terms of immunity, and particularly so in the early years of life, up to the age of around 3 or 4, in which case other immune sort of organs, so to speak, take over that function. And that's why you find that if I take out the tonsils in a 3-year-old child, then I also have to tell the parent that do not be worried that their immunity will be a little lower than the children who they share a desk with, because they still have sort of similar immunity. Below that, I'll want to be careful and judge against the number of episodes of tonsil infection. So anyway, the tonsils have pockets, and those pockets can have food settling in them, and there are bacteria within our oral cavities. Some of us can have extra bacteria. Some of us can have things called biofilm. So you find in a household, you have 6 or 5 individuals, but there's one who is always coming down with tonsillitis, and the rest are okay. It might be that for that particular individual, there are those risks because of that, their tonsils. Either it could be that they're also big, and that's another reason for tonsil surgery, that you have such enlarged tonsils that occupy the space within the mouth and cause snoring and obstruction, speech and learning difficulty, dental issues. And so because of that risk in that particular individual, then you may need to consider treatment, which is surgery.
Snoring, sleep apnea.
Yeah.
What causes snoring?
That's one of the, again, that's one
loud
of the...
snoring.
Exactly.
Lorry.
Yeah. So we are not supposed to snore, even in our sleep, right?
We're not.
No, we're not supposed
Then
to.
why do we
Snoring
snore?
is unusual. But there are different kinds of snorers. So there are those who are even called habitual snorers. And it's interesting. You can say, baba zao, babu zao, walikuwa kingorota.
Wow.
But you want to, so in children, for example, especially below the age of 12, you should not notice snoring. So you should be careful. But the older we get, because of relaxation of muscles, tissues, and even maybe weight gain, many people will tend to snore as they grow older. But what you want to think about is, if somebody is snoring, do they also have a disruption in their sleep? In other words, you are not snoring so much before, but now this is a new thing and it's louder. And when they wake up in the morning, they feel tired. So meaning that you're not resting. So there is some level of oxygen being deprived in your sleep. If that is happening, then you need to seek help. And what causes snoring, now to further answer that question, is a narrowing. So if you have a good opening, you have what is called laminar flow. So air is passing through without obstruction, and therefore it's quiet. If you have a restriction of that airflow, then it will be loud because it becomes turbulent. And so therefore, if you want to think about snoring, it could be from the nose, it could be from the throat area. So you have to find out which part is obstructed and therefore deal with it.
Okay. A final question in about like 30 seconds, and this is from Carol. My daughter has been having recurrent inflammation of the parotitis gland. She's had an MRI, nothing was being picked, admitted twice under antibiotics. What's the issue?
So that's parotitis, and remember what we talked about, the parotid gland might be mumps. But if it's recurrent, you see, it's not mumps because that's self-limited. You get it once and that's it. If you're having a recurrence of parotitis, it could be that the gland system has a problem. It could be that the treatment that was given was inadequate in terms of duration and strength and choice of antibiotic. So I think if it has been recurrent, I would advise her to be seen by an ENT, and they'll be able to sort her out.
Many questions. Some are asking, how can we get in touch with you? Is it okay if we put your number and we share your number, or you can just say your number or where you can be reached?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So I run a clinic called Prodigy Ear, Nose and Throat Clinic in Upper Hill. Prodigy.
Right.
Ear, Nose and Throat Clinic in Upper Hill in KMA Center. And you're most welcome. We're open every day except Sundays. And we're happy to see you.
Prodigy.
Prodigy ENT. And you're most welcome, and feel free to share our contacts, and we are happy to help.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us today.
Asante sana.
That's
pleasure.
Dr. Wahome Karanja. He's a consultant ENT surgeon. He's been here with us, just teaching us about the ear, nose, and throat conditions and how to keep them healthy. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation the entirety of this week. Have a lovely weekend. We'll see